Sierra Entertainment presents Time Shift, an intense action-packed first-person shooter for the Xbox 360, PC, and PS3. Armed with the experimental beta suit, you alone are able to slow, stop, and reverse the flow of time. Lead the uprising to victory by mastering time to become the ultimate weapon. Time Shift will be available October 30th on the Xbox 360 and PC. Visit www.timeshiftgame.com for more details.
All right, everybody, here we go. Welcome to the One Up Yours show for Friday, October the 26th. I'm Garnet Lee, and I am joined by a wholly different cast today. Well, I shouldn't say wholly, actually. Shane is here with us.
Yes, I am.
But the other two guys are completely different.
I barely recognize this podcast.
I know. No one else will recognize it either, but it's going to be awesome because, number one, we have James Milkey.
A rare treat.
Guess so.
Wow, don't go overly enthusiastic on us.
Do you guess that we have you, or do you guess that you're a rare treat?
I guess I'm a rare treat.
You are a rare treat.
You're a
Thank
treat.
you very, very
Yeah,
kind.
you're like a delicate flower.
I know, I'm a snowflake.
Snowflake.
Yeah, we're all different.
You're all unique. That's awesome. And in the fourth chair today, joining us from down the street, Mr. Bill Roper.
From down the street. I've always wanted to live down the street.
Down the street, you're across the way.
That makes him
right.
sound like a homeless person.
Over the river, through the woods, under the bridge.
Wrong side of the tracks.
That's right.
That's right. So anyway, here we go with the big show. It's going to be like usual, what you've been playing in the first segment, and I guarantee you from the pre-show we just did that Bill is going to blow you away when you hear what he has been playing, because I stopped.
Hannah
I can't
Montana?
believe it.
I had no idea.
I fully stopped.
Spoilers.
Second segment, we're definitely going to be talking about Hellgate. We're going to use Hellgate as a springboard to also talk about, the other games that are role-playing games that people might be interested in they worked on, and where MMOs are going and where MMOs have been. And I heard he has a little, a fee structure that's caused a little controversy, and people might have their little shorts in a wad about. So we'll get into that. Third segment, we've got news. After last week's NPDs, we have financial reports from the...
Always exciting.
Yeah, well, so we'll get through that very
Shane
quickly.
M. Cry.
And what else we got? We got some delayed games.
I got to my financial reports, not so good.
And even better, how often do you get the Church of England in video game news? This would actually be the second time. So if you know what the story was the first time, the second time does pertain to that.
Nothing makes people stick around like hot church news stories.
I know.
Yeah.
Those
Hot
Stay
religion.
tuned.
Hey, we have every Anglican waiting with bated breath.
Death o' cake.
There you go. And you see Church of England, and it ties into Hellgate London Day. There you go.
Wonderful.
All right, who wants to start talking about what they've been playing first? Milk, you want to jump in with whatever you've been up to?
Sure. I've been playing Chibi Robo a lot on DS.
Which I
Chibi
saw.
Robo
You
Park
mean
Patrol.
the hot Walmart exclusive?
The hot Walmart exclusive, the eco-friendly DS game.
I have a question. Is that developed by Skip, or is that developed by somebody else?
It says it's developed by Skip, right?
It's not.
But the truth of the matter is that it's actually been handled by another team. It's probably been managed by Skip, but it wasn't actually done in-house.
But it's not the same game as the GameCube game. It's like a sequel.
No, it's almost like it's part God game, since you're kind of like doing a little bit of a populist thing, raising ground, lowering ground, flattening ground, seeding the ground so that flowers grow, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's also kind of like real-time strategy meets action gardener. It's actually very good.
So you don't have direct control over Chibi Robo?
No, you do.
Oh, you do?
You do.
But you also affect the environment.
Right. You basically got to go around. You got to like play your turntable for the existing flowers. If you do well rhythmically, you get a high score. They plant more seeds.
Of course, flowers love house music,
They do.
Yeah. Well, it's not.
If they're
not
house
just,
plants.
There's also like hip hop. There's
Nice.
bluegrass. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
So do you think this game was like more or less killed by the fact that you can only buy it at Walmart?
There are a lot of Walmarts out there. Last time I checked.
heard that. I heard there are a lot of Walmarts.
Yeah,
But not around here.
Oh, I know. It was. I don't think it was a great marketing decision, but that's what they did. But if you are able to track it down, it's a very good game.
Did you get your ride that you were worried about? Like the other day, I saw him playing on the bus, and he's like, "You have to use." The
I had a
stylus
bicycle.
to
I had a bicycle. Yeah, and I had to kind of draw circles on the touchscreen in order to pedal. But then I got a car.
So you got your car.
I got a car.
It's not very eco-friendly. Is it a hybrid?
It's electric power.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
And then
So
I
shut
got
the hell
I got
up.
a raft. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try this game.
Yeah, I've also been playing the Orange Box. I'm very happy to have, because I don't have a really great PC at home, so I can only play, I have to play with the effects dialed down a little bit. So the Orange Box is good because it gives me all the good stuff, the Half-Life and all that. But on the 360, so I don't have to really think about it. So I get all that.
Did you jump into Portal right away?
No, I actually haven't touched Portal yet.
Because it seems like almost everybody plays Portal first.
Yeah, almost everybody plays Portal first, and then just goes nuts on it. It's oh my god, it's the.
I'm just trying to enjoy Half-Life and then the extra episodes before I get into the Portal thing.
It's unfortunate that the Team Fortress 2 bug hasn't been fixed yet. I hear it's still really slow if you play online.
I jumped into Team Fortress and I was like, whoa! I mean, I was walking into walls in slow motion. I could not do anything about it. I'm sure they'll fix that.
Yeah, the latest thing I read was that it's at Microsoft for certification,
right.
And then I saw a bunch of people with these technical explanations about how the game didn't shape their packets right, and routers were thinking it was maybe a DOS attack, and some routers were starting to block packets, blah, blah, blah,
well,
blah, blah.
I heard that it worked fine on PartnerNet, but then when they moved it over to Xbox Live, all these things happened.
Right, well, so which would then maybe stand to reason, maybe it does have some sort of packet control that does not working
Fortunately,
well.
there is a lot more game to play than just Team Fortress, so, it's not like you're screwed. That's just something that needs to get fixed.
Had you not played Half-Life 2 before?
No, I played it on Xbox, but that was not optimal, and it didn't have the extra episodes. So, I got my feet wet, but this is really the way to play it. Either that or Orange Box on PC. But like I said, 360 kind of solves all those problems for me.
Yeah, I think I love because I've been playing it a little tiny bit. I actually waited until we went gold before I would crack it open, even looking at TF2 because I was a Team Fortress aholic.
Yeah.
What do you feel? What do you think about the visual style?
I love the visual style. I totally dig it. I love the fact that they just said, you know what, we're going to make this crazy, goofy, over-exaggerated, cartoony because we do stuff like rocket jump.
Yeah.
And they're just they're totally playing into it. You could instantly tell who you're fighting against, for tactics and stuff. I really actually like the fact they kind of pushed almost an anime direction.
I think it helps it stand out because there's so many shooters out there now, and they all look so similar.
Yeah, especially in the team-based shooter world. How many military team-based, objective play shooters can there be in one space?
I'd like to play some old Counter-Strike maps using the new style.
Counter-Strike or Team Fortress?
The Counter-Strike. Wasn't Counter-Strike a mod? Kind of an extension of
Half-Life.
Right.
Yes. And there is still Counter-Strike.
Right.
Of course, then there's that whole big argument between the competitive Counter-Strike players and do we play 1.6 or do we, Bill, you're laughing, right?
No, it's true.
Patching used to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Patching Counter-Strike because, after a while, you'd have to, patch off of some mirror site in Sweden,
But there is Counter-Strike for Half-Life 2 engine. It just doesn't. It has not really
didn't catch on.
It hasn't galvanized the community as much as the original one. I mean, that's why so many of the competitive players still. I mean, come on, Counter-Strike's weird though. I mean, that's the community of guys who play with everything turned off so that they're playing on this $5,000 computer and it looks like they're playing Quake
so they have
1.
the frame rate edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would just like to play on maps like Italy and stuff like that.
That was a good map.
But with the new guys, it's so funny to see big heavy artillery guys marching down a straight corridor, but they've got one of the medic kind of dudes totally just keeping them alive, and it's just so crazy. It's a huge war of attrition.
Team Fortress with a DE Dust map.
Nice. Nice.
Dude, rush A now! Anyway, anything else?
I walked by Milky's office, and he's always playing the same thing on his one TV, and that is Final Fantasy XI. But this time, it wasn't Final Fantasy XI. It was Fable. And I stopped. I was like, what?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. The other day, last week, I just had some free time, and I was like, I want to, I've got a huge pile of games that I just need to go through. And I was looking at Fable, and I was like, I'm just going to give this one a shot finally, the Lost Chapters version with all the extra stuff in it. And once you get past the Wallace and Gromidiness of the characters and the animation and just it's kind of a crude looking game.
A lot of big feet.
Yeah, a lot of big feet. But it gets really good after a while. And I don't even think of it as an RPG so much as an action game with RPG elements. But once you get into it and you start really seeing your character develop, and I totally played evil. It's kind of goes against my nature
Surprise.
to do really bad things in the game, but to choose every horrible option. Now my guy is glowing red. It's so much easier to play an evil character in that game.
Well, I think that was the whole subtlety of it, because it does feel like an action game, but it's doing a lot of RPG stuff under the hood. So you think of it as an action game, and it plays like an action game, but underneath all that stuff that's going on, that character development stuff, is things that we used to think of as RPG games. It's just we would go into like a menu screen and go, oh, I'm going to up my accuracy by 3 points with this level up.
No, they definitely simplified it so it's accessible to almost anybody, but
I don't think it was ugly, though. I mean, you had the Hobbit feet thing going on, but for an Xbox game,
I don't know. You look at something like Psychonauts, and that game looks really polished, and it looks tightened up. You look at something like Ninja Gaiden Black, and you're like, wow. And then you look at Fable, and it feels like an N64 game.
Well, and like Fable, it didn't look like what they said it was going to look like.
Well, no, it didn't.
I mean, Molyneux always like dreams really big, and then kind of brings it all down. And like, I think it looks good, but yeah, it didn't look like the original vision.
It grows on you for sure, but yeah, I mean, so anyway, I played through as a bad guy and did as much as I could. Now I'm going through as a good guy, which is a little bit. You have to be a lot more patient playing that way. But
there's areas in playing good guy where it goes very slow because you have to be patient with stuff.
Yeah, but I'm definitely changing my play style to be an archer, so that I go into first person mode and I pull the bow back. I've got all my stuff upgraded so I can do as many long distance decapitations as possible. So it's
like all good guys do.
Like all good guys do. So it's like I still get mine.
That's the only humane way to do it. It's very quick. It gets things over very fast, and you don't have to worry about stuff.
If you have to bludgeon and stab over and over and over again, how nice is that really?
It's not.
When a simple single decapitation shot ends the life of
it just makes everything easier for everybody involved. But yeah, so that's really been what's been taking up my time. That said, I'm really looking forward to Fable 2 once we start getting some news on that.
And the dog.
Yeah.
The dog.
Yeah. Gotta have a dog.
How did the dog become the big part of that game of what they show? I mean, every time I read something about it, it's always the dog.
About the dog or about the one-button combat.
Right.
It's probably because of the fact that the first game is so solitary, You never even really have a name for yourself or anything like that. So now you have a companion.
Yeah, I really liked the way Fable came together. So I think it's cool that you're playing it because I really, really liked the way that game came together. It had its flaws, had its problems, but by the time it got to the end,
it's
solid.
It a lot. Like Christian Nutt, when we were on GMR, he gave it an 8. And I remember since we had the exclusive review, Lionhead, they all freaked out. They were so pissed off that we dared to give it an 8. But it definitely deserves an 8. Having played it so much, I might be inclined to bump it up a little higher, but there's nothing wrong with it.
Let's not even go into the score thing. I mean, this is the review crop season, and I'm so tired of people upset with numbers that are actually good. An 8 is a good score.
I'm canceling my pre-order.
You're canceling your pre-order?
Canceling my pre-order for Fable.
It's only an 8.
Only an 8.
God, shit.
Oh no.
I only play 8.5s on game rankings and above.
My Metacritic has to be 87 or above.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, it's just not worth my time. I don't know. I got better things to do.
Anytime I look at ratings, I always remember that in the San Francisco Chronicle, they have the
man who's
the man
clapping.
He's either standing on the chair applauding, excruciatingly happy,
or he's
asleep.
Or the worst one, he left. That's my favorite one. Yeah, it's like, is it just empty chair?
Sleeping Man review, original Matrix movie. I'm sorry, that. I always look at that going they gave it the Sleeping Man.
Oops.
How would you even sleep in that movie?
Well,
second of all, so who's doing the review? What do they like?
They gave it a sleep?
Yeah, he got Sleeping Man for the original Matrix.
Wow, I was really pleasantly surprised by the original Matrix.
Yeah.
I think most people were.
Reviews are very
except that guy.
Very subjective. I always remember that the same reviewer for Entertainment Weekly gave Fight Club a D- and Britney Spears Crossroads a B+.
Ooh. Nice. Well, you could feel that though, right?
I'm feeling it.
Yeah, you were feeling that.
I like Britney Spears Fight Club. I gave that actually an A. That was
Her Against the Paparazzi?
Yeah.
A+.
So good. So good.
And good news is the sequel's already in the works.
I think it's a prison drama. Anyway.
All right, so what have you been playing, Shane?
What have I been playing? Well, I'll tell you what I haven't been playing, and that is Super Mario Galaxy, because
Nintendo failed.
Well, yesterday I get a message from our friends at Nintendo, and they're like, "Hey, if you can fax this back to us in the next hour."
It was a typical contract thing.
You'll get your Mario Galaxy tomorrow. And of course, I run over at fax, and I'm very excited. This morning I get here, and the Nintendo guy comes.
Here he is.
And he doesn't have Mario Galaxy. We're like, what? And they're like, oh, no, they're sending you retail copies. Even better, because not the lockbox situation, like a real copy. I can put in my very own Wii and play.
Right.
And it didn't show up. So maybe it'll be here tomorrow. But
so you're going to have to come in tomorrow.
Yeah, I probably will for that. But they did drop off another hot upcoming Wii release called Endless Ocean. It is.
I saw you, and I kid you not, petting your penguin today.
Oh, I was petting my penguin, and I was curious. I was curious about this title because
He was stroking the hell out of that penguin.
I was curious about this because in Japan, this game is called Forever Blue. It's been out for quite some time, been out like 6 months or so.
Yeah.
And in the Famitsu magazine, very popular publication, it got a 10 among other scores. But
Among other scores, which were
a total of 35 out of 40, so
which is pretty
a
good.
really high score overall. And one person gave this game a 10.
A penguin petter.
So
Sam.
when
Penguophile.
a game gets a 10, I'm interested.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, there's not a whole lot to it besides petting. It's kind of a petting simulator.
It's a heavy petting.
It is.
Yeah.
So you're on this boat with this girl, and she says, "Hey, go check out the fish." And you dive underwater.
And you pet the fish.
And you check out the fish.
Pet the fish.
No, you do. You totally
really,
do.
that-
You
Actually,
stroke the sturgeon,
You can poke and you can pet.
Oh,
poke
man.
the porpoise. This
But
is
you
use Euphemism Generator 2000. What
Quite.
is
And
this game?
with alliteration,
Quite honestly,
that's a winning
You have
combination.
what you do is you pet the fish underwater. And I've watched a lot of Jacques Cousteau, whatnot. No one ever pets any fish.
I used to go scuba diving a lot, and I can tell you, no fish ever stuck around for me to pet it.
Yeah, so
I thought it was just me.
Dude, I don't even know if Team Zishu could save this.
So you pet the fish, you feed the fish, and then you put the then you know about the fish, and you can
in the
read,
biblical sense.
and you can read about. There was a
Shane,
lot of.
what are you doing? Are you knowing about that fish?
You know a lot about the fish. You know an intimate amount about the fish. And then ultimately, so I pet some fish. I came back up, and then a penguin came to my boat and hung out. And he invited other penguins to come hang out. And I pet them.
Oh man!
And ultimately, this is all you do in the game. Seriously, that's really.
You know what's
that's it.
funny? If you have I hope you don't have any criticisms about this game because the Nintendo Alliance
I know.
out
Well,
there will crucify you if you dare say anything bad
what
about.
I will say, it is very relaxing. It has nice new age music.
Excellent.
And the petting, you shake your Wiimote.
any
really
disparaging
vigorously.
comments, and obviously you don't get it.
But yeah, and I read, the Famitsu reviews. They said the graphics were amazing. No. I mean, in a game like this where there's no action really, it's just like an exploration thing.
So wait a minute, back it up a second. Did you say you were actually willing to come into work tomorrow on a Friday to pick up your copy of Super Mario Galaxy?
Fuck yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
That
of
is
you,
pretty
Shane.
awesome.
I'm really excited for Mario.
Is tomorrow supposed to be a day off or something?
It is.
It is for him.
Do you manipulate Mario?
He
Is
shipped
there a
the magazine.
crossover?
Oh, you probably pet him too, but no. Yeah, but so this Endless Ocean, I don't know. I mean, it has a Wi-Fi mode. Apparently, you can play co-op with other people and pet fish together.
Maybe
Oh,
you know
man.
what? You should actually talk to Alice because she played the Japanese version a few weeks
Did you
ago
pet 'em all?
for a preview.
Yeah.
You really need a headset because if you want to coordinate something like petting the same fish,
I don't think it doesn't support it. It doesn't support voice chat.
for the loss.
You could get into a whole school.
But yeah, I got to say, this game is definitely not for everybody. It's
Definitely.
If you're
How am I going to call up Bill down at Flagship and say, Bill, let's do this?
All right, everybody, let's get on Ventrilo. Come on, now, organize.
Yeah, so I say if you're excited about this game, you must be an 11-year-old girl who wants to be a marine biologist. And if that's who you are, then yeah, this is the game for you.
We're stalking the elusive sea
All
bass.
right. So what else have I been
I must
playing?
now fondle the flounder.
I s-
I will say you have to though. You have to give Nintendo props because they will just make. You're like, what the hell? But they do it.
Well, after you pet
They just go for
after
it,
you pet
man.
the fish for 30 seconds, it starts shimmering and it's shaking around and being really excited.
Well, of course it does.
Whose doesn't?
You know what? I got to give Nintendo props, though, for
Does it
for
get bigger?
getting Sin and Punishment out on the Virtual
That's
Console.
true.
The fact that finally came here, whatever, 4 years late.
That'd be about 8 years late.
Is it 8
9
years?
9 years late.
No, Sin and Punishment is not 9 years old.
I've lived in the Bay Area for over 8 years, and that came out.
That came out.
There.
Wow, that came out late 80s.
Late
1990s.
90s.
Sorry.
It's like
like-
1963.
Yeah.
You're not that Milky. You're not that old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
like
sure.
98, 99, yeah.
Okay, moving on
It
to
was-
games where you're
wow.
not just petting things. I spent a lot of time with Contra 4, which I was pretty excited about actually, based on what I played. And
Surprise.
yeah, and I'd say anybody who really likes Contra 3 will really like Contra 4.
You're such a Konami bot.
Konami bot.
Just wanted to actually put that word out
No, I mean
there
this
in
is
the public
this is the
consciousness.
first Contra I've probably liked since Contra 3. I mean, Shattered Soldier I liked, but it didn't really feel like Contra because there's no platforming at all in it.
Yeah.
And then Neo Contra was interesting, but once again didn't feel like Contra at all.
Right.
But this one, it's like a love letter to Contra in every possible way. The weapons, the design, the bosses.
Dear Contra.
However,
Was it made by white people?
it was made
Really?
by the whites who the last game by these whites that I reviewed, I gave their game a 0.0.
What the hell
What?
was that?
That was Ping Pals. The company is called Way Forward. They also made Shantae, which is like a cult classic from
Yeah.
GBA. But no,
Jeremy Parrish's big props for Shantae.
I think he did some fan art.
Yeah.
For it. some furry slash fan fiction. No, but this one they did their homework and it's
They found their way forward.
They did, and I'd say the only thing I don't like about the game is the 2-screen setup.
Oh,
Because much like Yoshi's Island
dude, straight
DS,
to the heart. Come on. How do you
much like Yoshi's Island DS, there's that gap, and the gap has to be there, or else it wouldn't quite make sense when you're jumping and stuff. But enemies, bullets, everything gets stuck in that gap, and you're like, "What's going on?" Oh, a bullet is in my head because it was in the gap. Or an enemy was standing in the gap shooting at me. I couldn't see him. That happens. So
Which is why you must mind the gap.
mind the gap, just like they say in London. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, Contra 4.
There's no satisfying you.
If you like Contra 3, you'll like this title. And finally, I wasn't really playing it, but I got to sit through an hour-long demo of Fallout 3, and it wasn't even a new demo. I guess the one they've been doing.
It was the E3 demo, yes.
Yeah, but I never got to see it, so it was
Right.
it was new to me. And I haven't really been a big fan of Elder Scrolls. I reviewed Morrowind, couldn't really get into it. I respected it, but didn't think it was very fun. Thought it was too open-ended, too confusing. And Oblivion was better, but still it didn't grab me. And this one, because it's more focused, it's post-apocalyptic. There's fewer characters, fewer places to go, and a more limited scope. I actually like that.
I like the fact that the character you create as a baby when you select its attributes and cycle through all the different criteria of how you want your character to look. When you first see your father, his appearance is also affected by the things you've dictated your character will look like. So he kind of looks like one generation removed from what you've selected, which is cool. And then you go into the game itself, and it looks beautiful.
Yeah,
I couldn't get into Oblivion either.
It definitely
because
looks better than Oblivion.
I respect the depth. I understand that it's a really awesome RPG.
The characters,
but you cannot make a cool looking character in that game.
Right, and the characters here, they look post-apocalyptic and all fucked up and cool, and
Come on, they start with one of the coolest built-in art styles and characters to build from in the first place. I mean, Fallout that's a huge part of its
and
appeal.
for everyone who thinks that
Look at Fallout Boy.
Right, but for everyone who thinks they're raping, you love looking at Fallout Boy. You love Pete Wentz's dick in particular.
Wow. Wow.
If it was a Wii game, it'd be over.
I know.
all over your face. But no, this Fallout 3,
what's wrong with Shane?
I like making Garnet.
What isn't right?
This is true. But no, people who think this is raping the legacy of Fallout. No, the gameplay is so much better. Cause you can play it like a first-person shooter if you want, but you can also pause it and use more of a turn-based tactic, which I really liked because it seemed a lot more effective. And
I think it's more interesting because if you're just playing as a first-person shooter, it's just a Twitch experience, you know. But if you go into the VAT system, the VATS system, all of a sudden you're taking into consideration, specific body parts, the percentage of your chance to hit specific body parts, and if you hit them in the face, you may blind them.
Right, and it's calculated in real time. Like if their arm is obscured, you can't hit it as easily and stuff. And that combat looked really interesting to me. And in the demo we saw, there are all these huge moral choices you're making that are affecting the game right as you're watching it. I mean, it was, from what we saw,
and there are huge choices.
Yeah,
too.
that whole
They're
thing,
not
thing could have been different, and that would affect everything else in the game. So you already know that this is a game that does invite replay in a really interesting and real way.
Yeah, it's major
surprise.
choices.
It's made by the guys who did Oblivion. Jesus, I mean that's not a big not a big shocker.
But it doesn't Oblivion and Morrowind both. I felt like I was just thrust into this world where I could, it's not holding my hand in any way, and I'm just lost. And in Fallout, it was more directed, and I do like that.
And,
so
compared to something like Fable, where you've got moral choices, right, and you never had to decide whether or not you want to nuke a town.
Right, whereas that's the first choice here. It's do you kill all these innocent people? Sure, why not?
Yeah.
See, I'm not in the raping the legacy camp, but I'm definitely in the camp of I don't want this to be a numbered Fallout next generation because to me it's just not Fallout.
I do question why they're calling it Fallout 3. I mean, in a way that'll please the PC people, but since Fallout never had a console legacy, the console Fallouts were crap.
Right.
They could just call this whatever, Fallout : whatever, and that I think that'd be fine.
Yeah, but this is people who love Fallout got to realize that this is no Brotherhood of Steel, which was just basically just a Diablo clone type dungeon hacker. It's like with space, So this is really going back to what made Fallout, but in a totally next-gen kind of way. So
which is just building off a Wasteland.
They should be
that,
happy,
so.
yeah.
But I think it has a lot of potential to be huge because it kind of has what's good about Oblivion without all the crap, and it has a lot of BioShock just aesthetics to it.
I think it's going to do a BioShock, basically, a franchise that was, that came from PC and now is going,
Gonna cross
to
over.
console, and it's going to have that same kind of effect. It's going to bring in a whole new audience. It's going to bring in the existing Bethesda fan base. I think it's going to be big.
The aesthetic is Fallout, by the way. It's
Right.
It's not pulled from BioShock. That is definitely a Fallout aesthetic.
But for people who aren't familiar with
the
Fallout,
computer terminals, the
yeah.
stylized.
But don't you
way
think that
it's been
console
drawn.
gamers who aren't familiar with Fallout might think this is a lot like BioShock?
I don't know. Like you play BioShock, and you don't think post-apoc. You think
No,
this
but-
like kind of 40s.
No, but when
Yeah.
this game opens up with like an old jukebox playing a record from the 40s and like big metal guys who look
Yeah,
kind of like
there's
Big
prob-
Daddies, I mean, like
you're
the
right. There's
comparison is there.
There's probably some room for some comparison.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's a little bit of like a steampunk thing going on, but other than that, I think you can definitely distinguish between
Right.
the two.
Well, and the scope of the game is much larger than,
Yeah.
than BioShock's. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's not till fall, and they're being really kind of careful with how they're giving out information. There's
One
no,
of the
no
keys-
demo. They already said.
One of the
Yeah.
keys for me and how well they pull it off is the unique characters that you have to interact with in the Wasteland, because that was what they nailed in Fallout 1 and Fallout 2. You came across these amazingly cool, mutated people, and it was very much, they all had their own motivations. They had,
Do you
whatever.
agree, Bill?
I do. I loved the Fallout series. I thought the graphic approach to it was awesome. It was like a total 50s throwback.
Yeah.
It was just so cool.
And the humor, but it's
Yeah.
it's not like overdone. It's
no,
it's
it
not
was just like-
cheesy.
It was like the whole almost like newsreely kind of thing, and the characters were fantastic. And you would just meet everything from super serious, shell shocked to just batshit insane.
Batshit crazy Dune pirates, and,
Right,
and the
and
scientists
great
that are
feel.
trying to save shit, and the whole spectrum, and all those characters were so interesting.
And before that, I was a huge Wasteland fan too. I mean, I
right. And
loved
Fallout was like the
Wasteland.
spiritual successor. to
Yeah,
it.
it really
Yeah.
was. So it's great to see it continue to evolve.
Yeah.
Over time. Then and now it's taking advantage of.
I think we need to go to Needles.
Needles, California. You don't want to be in Needles, California. I've been there.
Us and the
not
other
nice.
42 people that live there or whoever.
It's fucked up. But I also like that they're protecting the plot. They're like, we don't want to talk about the plot. We don't want to spoil the plot for anybody. And that's
Always a good call.
And they're going to
That's
keep
me.
the plot pretty much under wraps until you pull the shrink wrap off. So that's pretty cool.
Good for them. Good call.
Yeah.
Very cool. Anything else?
That's it for me.
All right, so last week I started to talk a little bit about Call of Duty. I got clearance from Activision to reveal some stuff about Call of Duty 4 multiplayer, and I know a lot of people who played the beta have been dying to know more about it. So first of all, if you're wondering, there is a level cap in it. You were into it, right?
Yeah,
So
very.
you can go all the way up to level 55.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound like. I mean, it sounds like I know what people are going. Oh, I can get to level 55 really quick.
It takes a while. I mean, if you're not playing COD4 devoted, if you're playing other games besides COD4, it'll
Right.
take you a few weeks to get there for sure.
But you know how crazy people are. Even a few weeks, they're like, "Oh, I'm going to get there right away." Okay.
Yeah, they just keep playing for 12
Here's
hours.
the wild card to that. Once you get to 55, you can elect to enter prestige mode. And when you do prestige mode, it wipes everything out, drops you back to level 1, but gives you a unique icon in front of your gamer tag every time you play the game. You can go through that 5 times.
So you can basically get to level 275.
Yes. And if you do...
Did I just do math?
I think you did.
Wow.
I'm
I don't
really
know,
bad
whatever
at
it is.
math. I'm like the Asian guy who's bad at math. Andrew Wong
Yeah, no, that's
sitting on the
275.
side.
Yeah, it's 5 times 5 is 25, plus
Did I?
50 times 5 is 250 at 275. You did
Win.
that right.
I
Wow.
totally win.
Brainy.
Math,
Awesome.
FTW.
Yeah, so and that's really cool. Like when we were playing with the IW testers, the guys who had done Prestige, you jumped into a game with them and you're like, oh snap, that guy is like the 3rd prestige level prestige thing.
I have a question.
And
do you raise levels only by winning or by playing?
you are always gaining experience. Okay,
Even if
so
you-
throughout
even if you
playing the
lose?
game, yes, just not as much. Throughout playing the game, you're always gaining experience based on your kills. Most of the game modes are team play, so how well you're contributing to the team, and you do get a bonus if you win. What you do with the columns.
Okay, do you know about this then? If you go to level 55 and then you roll over basically and go into prestige level 1, do you lose anything?
Well, so what you lose is you lose your unlocked weapons, but you don't lose.
Am I going to lose my red eyesight?
You lose all that. You'll have to go back through.
Are you
and
serious?
Yes, you'll have to go back through and re-earn all that shit, dude.
I don't know. I don't think I
icon?
really care about the little icon so
Well, let me
much. I
tell you
just
what.
wanna-
If the Infinity Ward testers are any indication, once you get to 55, if you don't go Prestige, there will be people giving you massive shit because there were a couple of guys who hadn't gone Prestige, and everyone was like, every round about starting. Oh yeah, we're playing with him.
Yeah,
Why
but
the hell? You ready to go prestige yet? Oh no, that's right. You're a pussy.
Well, it might help for like prestige only matches and stuff. Like you kind of know these people are of a skill level.
Yeah,
you know?
but I mean, like, if people aren't following your specific progress, I mean, like, if you see somebody who's level 55 with no prestige icons, you might just think, oh, they just hit level 55.
well, right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, but you could start hassling him right away.
Is there another bonus for going prestige? Like when you're in your first prestige thing, is there like some extra bonus
No, the
goodie
prestige
that you get, or is it
it's
just
truly,
totally
it's truly
Can you get, like,
prestige?
Can you
It's
get a
truly
special
prestige.
hat?
Well, now if you don't go prestige,
I'm not kidding.
If you open every weapon and every add-on to every weapon,
Yeah.
then you unlock the golden version of every weapon, and so you can run around with like the gold-plated version of every gun. And what's cool is it's not just like a wipe gold over the gun; it actually looks like a textured gold
Like a
gun.
blinged out.
It looks like a
M16.
blinged out.
But
AK,
if you roll
blinged out-
over and go to prestige,
you're gonna have to get it all over again.
So if you are a man, Milky,
That's
you will
right.
be level 55 prestige with gold weapons and no life.
That's right. See, what I think is cool is this is totally appealing to the hardcore side, right? This is the kind of shit that the hardcore
Well,
wants.
if you do get to like that 275th level, like, you know, at that point there's no more prestige rollover, so at that point you will have all that stuff. But if you're badass enough and you've played enough to get to tier 2 prestige, you know, you probably don't really need the red dot. You probably don't need the camo, you know, the ghillie suit or anything
Right.
like that.
So the other thing they've done is in that game browser that in the beta version only had 3 or 4 game modes.
Yeah.
Actually has about 10 game modes in the shipping version. They've done a lot of game modes, and I can talk about some of those in a second. What I really liked that they can do is that they're running stats in the background all the time, and they do not have to do a title update to change game modes or add and subtract stuff from the game. So if they see that in Team Deathmatch, there's 16 maps shipping with the game. Of those 16 maps, you know, map number 3 and map number 5 are getting vetoed all the time. They can just push one night, pull those 2 maps out of the rotation, and they're gone. They don't have to do a title update. They don't have to go through certification. They don't have to do shit. They just change it. If they want to add, like, it doesn't ship with Capture the Flag, but they already have Capture the Flag ready because they're going to see what game modes people like out of what's in there, and if there's something that people aren't playing, then they'll just yank it and drop a Capture the Flag in, because it's all just a matter of game rules and data sets that they drop in to the game engine, and they don't have to do a title.
So wait, like some maps, because they're unplayed, might one day become unavailable when you log on and say, "Hey, I want to do team whatever."
Well, they won't be in the party setup. So keep in mind, you got this is like you know, they used basically the Halo set. So like they have the party thing if you're playing in ranked matches. Now, if you're playing an unranked match, they have a window that comes up that has about 30 different boxes where you can set everything from soup
Parameter.
to nuts on how you want to play it. You know, friendly fire on and off, pips, and what weapons and weapon effect damage and all that crazy kind of crap. So I mean, I think they've done it's such a good job. You know, if you want to get teaser on some of the other modes they have like a hardcore mode in online that basically turns it into a almost one-shot kill, sort of, you know, very accurate ballistics, no HUD, no crosshair, no health meter, no nothing.
play like a man.
Play it like a man. They have an old school mode that I think a lot of people are going to like if you get tired of the class system, where instead of having a class system, everybody starts with the same weapon and just goes into the game, and all the weapons are pickups, so it just turns it into a normal kind of shooter when you're tired of like the team-based
How
setup.
strong is the 360 lineup? I know it's for PS3 as well, but how strong is the Xbox 360 first-person shooter lineup that you've got so many top-tier FPSs that Halo looks like, you know, a second best option or something. You've got
I'm
Bioshock,
telling
you've
you.
got Orange Box, you've got Call of Duty 4.
I'm so sold on Call of Duty 4. I mean,
I love that game. I think it's insane.
The multiplayer suite on this game is so good, and the single player is a blast. And I can't tell you much more about single player, except I can tell you one thing real quick, which is that when you get to the end of single player and you finish the whole game, it unlocks an arcade mode for the shooter, which is fucking hilarious.
Really?
You get to play Call of Duty as an arcade game with lives and scores, and they're going to have leaderboard tracking for the whole thing. So
nice.
Offline or online?
off. This is single player now.
Oh,
This
okay.
is single player. So they have so many layers to that game. This is definitely a package as big as anything anyone else has done. And
We should mention that you got your dick kicked in playing that game on, like, what is it, veteran mode or
Yeah,
harder,
well, and-
harder than normal?
yeah. So there is a couple of spots where the scripting is incredibly brutal.
Yeah.
So, yeah. there you go.
and Skip was like throwing controllers and kicking cans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard you were the only one who stuck with that difficulty level. Apparently,
I got past it.
that's what I heard.
I got past
you were
it.
the
I
only.
finally got
You're the
past
only one. That's what I heard.
What?
Who stuck with veteran? Everybody else.
No, Andrew finished it on veteran.
Really?
Oh yeah, Andrew totally finished. Hardened. It's called hardened. Andrew totally finished it on
Harder.
on hardened.
Harder. Let's play it on harder mode, stiffer mode.
And most of the way through, hardened is really good. I can't imagine how hard it would be on veteran. I will not do veteran to myself. There's no way. It's not worth it.
Is there online co-op?
No, there's no online co-op.
Bummer.
Yeah, but it's really not suited to that. I mean,
Yeah, it's not designed for it, so
yeah. I mean, the whole experience is you
just
as a member of
spoiled
the
after
squad.
Gears of War.
Well, right, and
Halo.
of course Halo, right?
Yeah.
Which okay. So anyway, other than that, I also have been playing, and I know you also have been checking this out. Every Extend Extra Extreme on Xbox Live Arcade.
Very
which
fun.
Dude, it's a blast. It's so cool. Except we kind of disagreed a little bit because I said I thought it was almost like a interactive art project.
Yeah, no, I very much think that E4 is a game, but there are two things that kind of bum me out about it. One, they took out the charge where you can like plant a bomb and basically run away and then like let it detonate once the appropriate number of objects are on screen that you can detonate and make a huge chain. They took that out. And the cool thing about it is that you can actually synchronize it to your own music, whatever music that is, and I did it to a couple of tracks from the new Underworld album. But the problem is that every time you, and this is a Microsoft thing, everyone, not a Q Entertainment thing, but every time you want to play one of your songs from your playlist that you've stored in your synchronized data folder, you've got to actually go to the Xbox menu and go through all your music and then pick the song out manually. You can't just like save it in some master in-game list. You've got to go. You got to go to the Xbox menu. Yeah, it's a pain.
Anyway, I still think it's a blast. I think it's really cool. I love the fact that they've gone completely ape shit with the chains you can build.
Yeah.
And as the chains
Does it
build,
have
it's
the
very
versus
cool.
game as well?
It does
Yeah.
have the versus
Yeah.
game.
That's
as well.
the thing I liked about that game is actually the versus.
It does
game.
have the
You know
versus-
what's interesting? Like what I discovered is that the revenge mode, where it turns into a shooter, instead of detonating stuff, you're actually just flying around as an icon and shooting stuff. I discovered that you can just keep winning because there's like something like 300 levels in that thing, and you can just keep winning by going left and right throughout every level. Just shooting, just going left and right. You will not die. You can just crash. There's no like you don't blow up by getting hit as long as you're shooting. So you can just go left and right and get past everything. And the only thing you have to do is like beat the boss, and you just hit it, and you pick the mode where you're aiming your fire in one direction. So no matter where you move, it's still shooting, like let's say to the right. And it's very, very easy to kill the bosses, so I don't think that's going to be a very hard mode at all.
So the way I find myself playing it is now that you can cancel out of an explosion now. I cancel out of explosions, and what I do is I get a lot of time stamps, and then the time extends.
Yeah.
I get a lot of the extends. I make sure my quickens are built all up, and then once I've got that built up about 2.5 minutes, I let it go nuts, because once the explosions start going, you can use the triggers to change the sound of the detonations as they go off, and it's almost like you're mixing your own kind of like trippy house music.
And they did a really good job quantizing all the music so that like all the sound effects are aligned with the rhythm of the song, because I use an Underworld song that had more of a kind of like a hip hop tempo, and the way the explosions were going off was in time with the music, so it was really cool.
When does Rez come out for Xbox Live Arcade?
I heard
08.
yeah, but it's going to be very early 08. I can't say exactly, but pretty much
early.
You have a happy new year
Nice.
Awesome.
around that time. Yeah.
Good to hear.
And so before I turn this over to Bill to bring it home for what you've been playing,
Right.
just give a quick shout out for our rock band Battle of the Bands band, which is called Beard Rock, which is Karen Chu singing for us, Patrick's on guitar, Klepek, Nick Sutner's doing bass, and Nelson Lault is playing drums for us. And it's a big competition between all the online sites. The first results should be up today. And they're having a good time with it. The only problem I have with this is I think Rock Band is a blast, and playing it together is the most fun way to play it. The setup that you have to go through to do this, to do these challenges, to go through Score Hero, you have to have someone on a computer running a web browser looking at Score Hero while other people are logging into the game through Live, and then they're agreeing on Live that they're both at the ready screen. So you come back to the computer and press that both people are ready, and then it reveals the secret song that you're going to play, and then you go and play the song. And when the song's done, you take a picture of the score, and then you upload it through the computer to the website.
Is this like 1985?
I know, it's like crazy, right? I'm like, wow, am I really I Xbox Live?
It's not easy being in a band, Garnett.
Right. And I think it's just one of those cases where it's a huge feature set to get incorporated, and I bet you will see it in Rock Band 2.
Hopefully, like the game will actually do that. Yeah, it's
Yeah, the game needs to do that itself. But I think there's only going to be hardcores that are really willing to do it
You have to feed a Polaroid into your your scanner.
It's like step one: write a letter to your friends.
All right, Bill, bring us home. What have you been playing?
All right. Well, not shockingly, a lot of Hellgate, but
it's your job. It's your job.
I've heard that
It's
game's
my
okay.
job. Yeah, we like it.
Shameless plug zors.
Yeah, Plugzor.
And that Mythos thing.
And Mythos. That's actually Mythos is my de-stress from work. I've been playing that, running around with my cool little, gremlin gadgeteer guy with my little widgets and stuff. But outside the scope of what we're working on all the time, that's this. We're getting into the shocking land.
Yeah, this is what I was like. What?
So, I've been on this massive RPG quest. But it's the bizarre RPG quest because it's my sports RPG quest. So I started with my little right out of high school football player, NCAA 08.
Did they already put BioWare on Madden? No, already? No?
Yes, exactly. I've got Big Daddy. He's a linebacker. No, I'm a huge sports nut, and I love sports games. And I love the fact that there was this synergy between NCAA and Madden, and the fact that I could make this guy, and they have this. It's like the college legends mode where you're playing one guy, and you're only controlling your guy, and you're only in the game when your plays are on, and it's tracking your stats and how well you've done at the school and all kinds of stuff. And there's little elements in between games, which is like this super light RPG stuff where you're choosing what you do at night and your events and your practices and all kinds of stuff.
This is all menu driven, right?
Yeah, all that's like menu choices, and you're making choices driven.
How many keggers do you go to?
Right, exactly. Like,
Did you do a keg stand last night? If so, subtract 10.
Right. But it'd be funny when we do stuff where it's like you're biking across campus to turn in your paper to your professor, and a car runs the red light. And so it's like, do you swerve out of the way or do you brake? And then depending on what you do, can actually impact your, like, very slightly your stats. So if I swerved, it's like, agility +1. So I'm like, okay. So,
Wow.
So it's just impacting then how I'm going in and playing the game. Well, when I finished and I graduated college and I stayed in for my 4th year and everything, then I saved that file off. And this was, just telling me, it's like completely old school. I save off that file. I get Madden. I go to superstar mode. And for my rookie, I bring in my college player. And now I'm playing him in the pros.
Really? That's cool. How long did it take to develop 4 years worth of college, dude?
4 years of college probably took me about 30 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, there's franchise mode.
Andrew,
there's
you
all
gotta hook
kinds of
this up.
stuff.
You gotta hook it up, man.
But that was
BlackBerry.
just so fun that now I'm playing him. So I'm like the featured running back for the Colts, and we just won the Super Bowl.
But you still fumble a lot, right?
I fumble like once a game. It kills me, man. That's the one thing that kills me is I'm like this kick-ass running back, and I fumble once a game. I'm like, oh, come on, man. But it's a blast, and it's really cool. You're choosing your outfit, and of course that's just that one part of both those games. There's franchise modes and all these mini games and live and all kinds of stuff. But I just really liked the fact that I made this guy kind of had this career, and now I get to go and take him through the pro career, and I've kind of got this, and it keeps all his stats from college and brings it's just this really cool. I remember that there was that used to be kind of a hallmark, right? Especially like on the PC side where you do like King's Quest, and you'd save off your file, and then you get the next King's Quest, and you'd load your file up. So even though it's an adventure game, I start with some stuff in my inventory.
Yeah,
I gotta stop you there. I'm a huge King's Quest fan. That never happened.
Wasn't that King's Quest?
Might and Magic did it.
Might and Magic did do it. I thought there was one of the adventure games.
How dare you lie about the storied history of Roberta Williams, queen of all gaming.
You're the queen.
You're the queen.
You're the queen.
Pink shirt.
Whatever. That's because I'm confident in my manliness that I'm willing to wear a pink shirt in front of you. Face.
But that was you're right. It wasn't King's Quest. But that was a thing that used to happen, right?
It was in some game.
But I think it's smart for them because those games come out like a month and a half apart.
I think more games should do that. It's like whatever, even on a console.
Dennis Dyack's upcoming trilogy, Too Human, would do that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, you get distracted from it because, let's face it, in the last 2 or 3 years especially, Madden has become completely about the online and offline competitive player against player version of playing the game. And it has all these other features, and those are all huge, and oftentimes we forget about them because the spotlight is so brightly shown on, you can play it against each other, and there's the Madden Challenge, and there's the show on ESPN, and every night there's all these guys playing it online, and that's what it's just become, that attention center, where it used to be about, like what Bill's talking about.
This is a bizarre digression, but does anybody here even want to speculate why Madden is selling 50% worse this year than last year? From the time when it released to now, Madden,
are you confident in that? And we're not going to get called out?
I read a story about it like 2 days ago, and
Really?
everyone's perplexed. They're like, why is nobody buying Madden this year?
That's interesting.
Sales are half.
It's obviously
Half.
not because of 2K's thing.
No, I think it's because the PS2 game is still full price. I think it shouldn't have been $50. That's my theory. Like, people who usually buy it were like, $50 for a PS2 game now? I don't know.
I mean, you think there could be like maybe some influence?
Maybe
of,
the last game was so good that people are still playing it.
Maybe. It's kind of weird. No one knows. It's a mystery. Maybe people are waiting until October to buy Madden for some reason. I don't even know.
Another aside is that, like, I know that you really care.
I'm curious. When what's usually one of the best-selling games every year suddenly sells half.
No, you're not talking about on individual, but
talking
you're talking
overall.
about overall. Yeah, no, so I think,
So it only
across all
sold.
platforms.
So it only sold 500 billion copies.
Exactly,
this year.
but
I think
as
definitely.
opposed to a trillion.
Yeah.
I think you're definitely there at a PlayStation life cycle point because so much of the volume part of their sales has got to have been the PS2 the PS2 title, right? And now you're going to have a bunch of people who are either I have last year's and it's only been iterated, and I'm not getting the next gen advantage of them working on those versions. So why do I need a new one?
Yeah.
And then you're going to have another group of people who are saying to themselves, well, I'm going to get a PS3.
But the theory is,
I'll just get it then.
They think there will be an across-the-board price cut on Madden, like to $29 very soon.
there will be.
That's
I mean,
everybody's
it happens every year. There
Who's
will
they?
be. I don't know when it'll be.
analysts.
Oh, okay.
Angels.
Wall Street.
The analysts who just listened to this show and decided, I'm going to put that up. Rumor.
Yeah, Garn, I'm sure all the analysts are listening to you for all their.
Well, I didn't know. Pachter listens to you, dude. I'm sure he just right now.
I'm sure.
There you go.
Maybe
You're
animal,
shaping
column.
the
maybe
future
animal
of the
friends
industry.
you're the fish
That I've been
you pet.
petting.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to actually mention Endless Ocean is the first game since Excite Truck to feature custom soundtracks on Wii. So that's kind of exciting. Anyway, Bill, pray continue with your game plan.
All right, so another probably shy. I've always been a big Tony Hawk fan. I love.
You should play
Tony
Skate.
Hawk.
It's better.
And that's what I'm playing.
Oh, okay.
I am totally playing Skate, and it is better. And that's coming from
Andrew,
a big
need
Tony
a
Hawk
copy
fan.
Of Skate. Can you get on your
Skate,
BlackBerry? Thanks.
Skate is. I love the control scheme. The thumbstick
There's a
stuff
learning
is
curve.
so
What
natural.
about the learning
There is.
curve?
There is. And in fact, if I'm playing late at night and I start getting like a little drowsing out of it, and then I'll revert back to like Tony Hawk controls. I'm like, oh crap, that's not right.
Wait a minute, I have totally missed the Skate boat. Like, what does it do fundamentally different than Tony
You're
Hawk?
controlling your feet.
Yeah, it's all like when you're doing an ollie, you're like down and up.
So it's Yanya Cabalista.
In a sense, yeah.
I once brought up Yannick
Wow.
Cabalista on this very podcast, and people thought I was a fucking freak, and then you brought it up. So
Yeah, so I would
Except
basically
it doesn't come with
your-
the thumb board.
it
Yeah.
should.
Yes, no thumb, but it feels
The
really
thumb board
natural.
would fit if it's for PS3. Is it PS3?
It's PS3 and 360.
Yeah.
Then the thumb board would fit.
It would. Or your Surfoid thumb board.
Do you know what the hell we're talking about?
I don't know what the thumb board is.
Koei
but I can-
Koei made this game
Right.
called Yanya Cabalista, a really bad, cell shaded kind of.
Yeah.
Imagine Koei trying to do a Tony Hawk game.
It was
okay?
an early PS2 game.
Yeah.
And it came with a piece of plastic.
It looked cute. I mean, but it had this
laid it over.
skateboard that you just put over the two thumbsticks. It had like
Right.
thumbstick cups that you put on there, and then you were supposed to basically control
Skate.
it like a board.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Little, I mean, not exactly, but similar in maybe in
Concept.
baseline concept and theory. But it's very cool. I mean, it's really fluid once you know it. Like doing tricks is really simple. Grabbing the board,
No, I
and then it
noticed-
has great features too, where you're unlocking all kinds of RPG-esque gameplay where you're getting on covers of magazines and doing challenges and races.
what's the
and-
environment like? Is it like skate parks or are you on the streets?
It's like
Both.
it's like San Francisco.
Yeah, it's
kind
really
of.
based out of San Francisco. There's skate parks, there's city streets, there's actually areas that are like no skate areas that you can skate in, but then you'll get chased by security.
But there is
you can unlock
there is
different
weird
areas,
stuff
and
like
it's pretty cool.
other skaters are like have physical space, and if they're on the like half pipe, you have to wait for them to finish.
Right, or just be careful not to run into them.
Is
It's
this
also
online
cool. You
or-
can. There's both. There is both.
Yeah.
The thing I like too is that if there's other skaters, like if you're playing single player in the game, and you'll see other computer controlled skaters, you can follow them and they'll eventually lead you to like places where you can skate.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know
Which is
that part.
really cool. So you just
Like,
kind of
yo,
like
dude.
follow guys. Yeah, and you'll follow him, and he'll end up going to some like hidden half pipe area, and you're like, "Whoa, cool!"
So I know some
it's kinda
people are
cool.
really into the skate thing. Is that because it just really feels so different to something like Tony
Well, I
Hawk?
mean, it's Tony Hawk 9, and they just iterate a little bit every year. And this one, it does feel like a totally different game and a good game. Like
Yeah.
they spent their time on it, and it sold well. So I think they're going to give Tony Hawk a run for its money.
There are people who really like it, and then there are people like Todd Zuniga
Well, yeah.
who thought it was really
He
boring.
thinks it sucks compared to Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
He thinks it's boring.
No,
so
why
it's-
would you
it's-
say that?
it's-
Because the controls aren't as accessible,
Well,
or you got to relearn
it's not
it?
as flashy and it's not as exciting. And like in Tony Hawk, Tony Hawk almost feels like a fighting game in a way. Like
Tony Hawk is like skate extreme. You're like doing
moves,
crazy
yeah.
ass tricks and like
Yeah.
massive, like
this isn't nearly as crazy and over the
no.
top.
Well, the first
Really?
thing it throws you
Does
off
it have
if you're a
an
Tony
EA
Hawk.
track soundtrack?
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
And you can customize it, of course, too.
Really?
And you have multiple playlists depending on how you're feeling.
There's also the online sharing is kind of cool. Like you can like make
Yeah.
you make videos of your crazy wipeouts and share them and stuff.
That is one of the coolest features. When you go through, you can always turn the camera on, and it'll give you like about 45 seconds of video capture, and you can go in and edit it and move where your start and end point is. You can hit trigger points where you change the camera angle. You have
Oh,
different
really?
camera effects you can put on it, like negative or
It's like building a skate film.
Can you
Yeah,
do,
it is exactly
can
building
you
a
do it
skate
slow
film.
mo? Can you add
Yep,
some
slow
mo?
mo. You can go down to 25% speed on slow mo. It's very
I think you would
cool.
actually like it. You should try it.
Really?
Get,
Yeah,
him,
it's
to,
fun.
get him to send you copies.
Andrew's on the
Yeah,
BlackBerry.
it's really slick. I'd like to spend some more time with it. I think the big jump for Tony Hawk fans is the change in camera position.
Yeah.
Oh, but
That's-
the
that's
camera's
the-
cool. It's close to the ground. It's almost like a Gears of War-ish camera in a way. It's dynamic.
If you spend the time to get past the barrier of, this is completely different, then it becomes a lot more fluid. But you have to get over that. You have to get over that hump.
I want the sequel to be Skate NYC. Andrew, can you put a thank you?
On the BlackBerry. So I got one last one.
He's got one more.
Right.
Holy cow!
That's awesome.
One last one. But this
Fucking
is,
no wonder Hellgate took so long.
I do have a question. Is this another game published by Electronic Arts?
No, and in fact, this is a
Just
this
a
is a
suggestion.
completely bizarre. Well, look, man, anybody who sends me free games, I will play. Right? So,
I'll send you a free game.
yeah, I'll bet you will. Does it involve petting some kind of like sea
Absolutely
creature?
not. No sea creatures. But Hannah and Montana might come up in the title somewhere.
And you might want to bet her.
I might want to pet Hannah Montana.
Who doesn't?
No, this is and I heard about this and I was like, okay, this seems crazy. Google Image Labeler.
What?
Follow me. Follow me on this.
That's not a game.
No, it is. No, but to me, it's totally fascinating. You go if you Google search for like Google image game,
yeah.
originally, right? You go online, you put in like your Google account, and you can get a nickname, right? It matches you up. You click a button, find a partner. You find somebody else who's doing this online.
Sure, this isn't Match.com.
Yeah, well, and there's 49 points of compatibility. No, so this image comes up out of Google image search, and there's a list of words that are like out of bounds. So, for example, it'll be an image of like two ducks on a pond, right? And it'll say duck, ducks, pond, and you can't use those. And you start typing in words, single words. That image, so you're like mallard, lake, whatever it is. When the other person matches you, depending on the level of specificity of the image, you get between 50 and 150 points. There's leaderboards. There's like lifetime leaderboards and everything. Here's the
Why would people
Is
do
this like
this?
categories? I'm confused. What's going
it's
on here?
basically like you're seeing an image and you're like it's like what
you know
words
the
come to
fucking
mind.
brilliance behind this is that they're building keyword tags for
That's
their image
exactly what it
library,
is.
and they're getting us to do it for fucking free.
And that's the fascinating part to me about it. They have millions of people that play this 2-minute little thing.
We're working
every
for
day.
So
them.
is it just a leaderboard? Or do you get
Yeah,
like
it's a leaderboard.
space bucks? You can get like a Google T-shirt or something.
They're earning points, and what they're talking about is they're going to like start doing. Remember how like it used to be, you just got achievement points, and then after a while they went. My Xbox was like, oh, and here's now some stuff you can spend your points on. They're doing the same thing right now. People are generating points, and they know that in the future there's going to be like stuff you can spend your points on, and it
smart.
sounds
It's very smart.
kind of. I know it sounds like that's the name I'm saying. It's bizarrely captivating. You're like going because you don't know what image is going to come up, and like, are you going to match a word and how fast?
So
And
are
at
you
the end-
doing it in real time against somebody else? So that's kind of exciting.
it's with somebody else, and you have to match words. So like you'll be typing, and you've typed like 9 words, and you haven't matched, and you're like
vagina.
yeah, you're like, WTF, dude? Wait, how can we be so, and you can pass and then go to the next one, and you get points at the end. And it's just this weird thing where apparently it was some guy's master's thesis on how to do like real world, like, creating keyword
tagging,
searches.
right.
And Google said, wow, that's brilliant. And they hired the guy.
So
Surprise.
is it just
Wow.
everything that's Google image searchable?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, I've had a couple of very shocking images come up.
You're like,
I'm sure they're
Your
just
filter is not 100% correct. That was like
Tub
flag.
girl.
Well,
Tub
think about how easy that is, you know? And like, who uses...
Why did you do that to this podcast?
What?
Why did you do that?
What? What did I do? What did I do?
Like you and me and other people. I don't know about Bill.
Garnett's a little jacked
Tub
up.
girl
Somebody put
immediately
too much
brings
sugar.
That, yeah, no, you're like, damn you.
I'm going to have more of this delightful libation.
You
while
can
we-
control your imaging processing.
Yeah.
You don't have to think that
But think
way.
about how brilliant that is. Like, how easy is it? Who uses the internet? Oh, everyone.
Everybody. Who
right?
uses Google Image Search?
Like,
Everybody.
Who uses words? You know,
Yeah.
like
But it's and the thing is, it's bizarrely an addicting little
Yeah,
game you play too much of the time.
I gotta say, I want to try it.
yeah.
Yeah.
When I first started, I'm like, oh, that, and I was sucked in for like 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, holy crap, this is like
fucking
pretty
brilliant.
compelling.
That is
so.
really
Bill
brilliant.
Roper
It is.
has been playing Google.
Yep.
There you go.
I got Googled.
He's been looking at internet porn and thinking it's a game.
All right, well, let us play Make Some Money for a minute. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back on the other side, we will let Bill go on about Hellgate for a little bit. Then we'll cut him off and go into MMOs and some other stuff like that. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
The Star Wars Battlefront Entertainment Pack includes all new, limited edition, lighter, slimmer white PSP with Darth Vader art and Star Wars Battlefront Renegade Squadron game. Play on widescreen LCD or on any TV with video out.
All right, we're back and ready to dig into Hellgate, London.
This podcast needs more sound effects, like lasers, like pew pew. And
We have a no sound drop policy, actually, which is kind of so. Some people know this because they heard me talk about it before. But one of the big lessons or people that I pattern the show off of is the Rome show. And if you ever listen to Jim Rome, he's come a long way over like 7 years. A long time ago, he used to actually do sound drops and all that kind of shit. And his show got exponentially better when they killed the sound drops.
I always thought our show was based on Art Bell.
Art Bell.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, no. Well, it's based on a lot of things, but like this one specific thing about not doing the sound drops is off of that because it takes on a whole life of its own, and it detracts from the content, and it just gets silly. And
Well, from
hey, dude, give me a sound drop.
We'll go in from sound drops. Let's talk about rare drops.
Yes. Oh, what a segue.
Oh,
wow, nice one, Shane.
There's
There's a sound drop. That's a high five.
Ow.
that was
sorry,
Larry
the
King
rings.
influenced, I think. That
Yeah.
So, Mr. Roper,
so-
Hellgate, London.
So this Hellgate London game, I think I first heard about this in like 1995. right?
oh, not that long ago. Come on. Now. No,
Maybe it was 2005.
Ask Shane when was the last time he played a game on PC?
Shane, when was the last time you played a game on PC?
I think that would be King's Quest V. Absence makes the heart go yonder.
So he's biased.
right. Yeah.
Tubiest, of course. He's Shane.
So yeah, Hellgate London. We're for the 4 or 5 people that don't know about it, which is hopefully
4 or 5.
4 or 5
Out of this audience, 4 or 5 is not a
right.
bad number.
So action RPG with a lot of new influences. I mean, hopefully based in all that Diablo, compelling goodness that you love. Tons of randomization.
The quest for stuff.
the quest for loot.
The treadmill, as it would be.
No, the treadmill was EverQuest.
Oh.
Yeah, trust me, the treadmill was EverQuest.
Yeah. No, Diablo was like instant gratification. You just spend a half hour, but then boom, you're there. Boss time. Let's see what he drops.
And so I mean we're all about dropping tons of loot, completely randomized stuff, areas, what's around the next corner, what you're going to find. We've done randomization in a lot more areas than we ever did in Rarity too, like having rare areas you can find as part of the environments, finding like crawl spaces to get into and elite passageways that only show up every now and then.
So let's start here. You got all these guys sitting around who were together at North, did all that work together, right? Mm-hmm. And you sit down. How does Hellgate London become the game that you guys say, okay, you know what? Let's make this game.
It was, literally the day after we left Blizzard, right? So the first day of the new company, it was Dave Brevik and Erica Max Schaefer and me sitting around in Dave's living room. talking about, well, all right, let's do this new game company thing. We don't know how to do anything else. Let's do this, right? And we talked about, all kinds of stuff. We tried to come up with names for the company, and that which is a whole massive. There must have been like 300 names we ended up coming with before we came up with Flag Shoes, including things like Surprise Truck and Live Nude Games. And,
Live nude games.
I like Surprise Truck.
Yeah, that was Eric's favorite. He's like, no, it's like a truck that shows up your house, and you know what's in it? It's like, it's a surprise truck.
Did you consider like Strong Snowstorm?
That's
Now you make it sound like an Indian, like I'm me strong snowstorm.
I think he was doing a
you
little play on Blizzard.
What?
A little play on Blizzard.
Sorry.
Really?
Yeah, subtle.
Strong. I get it.
But one of the things we talked about was we pitched a bunch of different game ideas to each other, and then Brevik said, okay, this was just the purest high level idea was Diablo 2 meets Half-Life 2, right? Which was all the randomness, all the action RPG elements of the Diablo type games, but then wanting to do a true 3D game that you could play from first person, which he would loved about the Half-Life games.
Did you also want like the narrative aspects of Half-Life, like the storytelling, or not so much?
it was. I think I don't know if that was really the part of it. It was more like being able, because we were in 3D, being able to have things that happened that you didn't expect. Being able to actually use height was one of them, right? I mean, and you see that out of like the Ravagers in Hellgate, where the first time you run into them, you're like, crap, because you're out walking. You're used to kind of fighting things in a flat plane,
right?
And then they start
everything's a sprite,
right? Yeah, but even Hellgate, everything's in that flat plane, and then you start getting like monsters are flying and leaping, and you're starting to move into that third dimension, or going up into buildings and things like that.
Was it always designed to be an MMO?
It was designed to be, yeah. I mean,
no,
but I guess MMO
I thought there was an announcement, like, what was that, a year and a half, 2 years ago? I think I was already doing the show, that when they announced the pricing, and you were like up in arms. Everyone was up in arms.
Yeah, well, I might have railed a little. I don't know.
But I guess just cue it up on the tape.
You don't have it on recording.
I wish, but
but the big thing is, I mean, for us, we look at MMO as meaning massive multiplayer online, right? And we knew that, just like in the Diablo 2 days, right? There was the argument with Diablo and D2. Was it an RPG or was it not an RPG? And there was like this religious argument that people go, it's not a role-playing, And so then it was like, well, it's an action RPG, like
with quests.
Yeah, with quests. Let's put it in its own thing, And so I think now, people are like, well, is it an MMO or not an MMO? And for us, massive multiplayer online. That's what we're doing. We're going to get massive numbers of people online to play multiplayer.
The reason I ask if it was always conceived as an MMO is because I'm wondering if, was there ever a consideration like, could we do something Diablo-like, isometric view, hack and slashing, point and click, that kind of thing? Or did you guys think like, okay, well, nobody's ever going to pay a monthly fee for something like that?
It wasn't deciding like the perspective and that kind of stuff had absolutely nothing to do with any kind of business model stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was really for us was wanting to take it into a new direction, wanting to, sounds kind of lame marketing, have a new perspective on an action RPG, right? Yeah. We wanted to move into being able to play in first person, being able to have, that was the same reason like we went to a near future, right? We were like, oh God, we've done high fantasy, we've done this gothic fantasy, and we're like, man, we want to be able to start making guns and stuff and doing, but how do we mix that in with fighting, kind of a real good versus evil type thing, and it's still having spells and having that kind of stuff, and so really that it wasn't tied to that at all, and what we always wanted to do was to find a way, just like we were like, we didn't figure out what kind of box we were going to be able to fit Hellgate into from a gameplay perspective. We didn't want to do that with the business model side either. We're like, we know what people want. We know people want to get free online play. They want to get the game and then go online and play for as long as they want for free. They showed us that with Diablo. I think if we didn't have that, people would have freaked out. At the same time, people back in the D2 days always wanted more. They wanted more and more, and they wanted to stream it. How can we not get? And I think going back, you look back kind of through rose-colored glasses, right? And people forget that D2 came out, a year went by, they got an expansion set. Another year and a half went by, and they got that infamous 110 patch. Right?
Yeah, a big 110 patch.
And that was it. That's all you ever got for content. We couldn't handle a lot of the hacks. We couldn't handle a lot of the cheaters. We couldn't update stuff. We couldn't do balances because we just weren't set up to do that technologically or from a business.
Okay, so before we go too far down the MMO side, because that has definitely captured everyone's attention, especially over the last few weeks, let's talk about single player for a minute, because I think a lot of what people thought was the big content of Diablo was that not only did you have 3 difficulty levels, but there was a great incentive to play through on each of the 3 levels because you got increasingly badder ass shit, which was the cool reason to keep playing. I mean, you played Hell and Nightmare because you wanted to go get whatever was...
You wanted your little sprite to look...
You wanted your sprite to look great, right?
Yeah.
And because that was a big deal of it. And this, I brought some questions also on the message board, on our message boards at boards@oneup.com. I let people write in their questions for you. So one of the ones that came up, and I think this is actually a really good one, as I lost my place because I moved my finger. Don't you hate it when you do that? It was about grinding and how do you get it right. Here it is. It's from Mario Party in My Pants.
Nice.
With the Wiimote, obviously.
That's right. It says, what is about Diablo and hopefully Hellgate London that makes level grinding fun instead of a chore? What other RPGs have you played that get the formula right? So what is the formula? What is it that makes the formula right? Because lots of people have tried it. I mean, God knows, right after Diablo came out, you had Nox and a whole parade of...
I haven't thought about Nox in forever.
Really?
At the time, I had this friend.
Nox was good.
Strange aside, she loved Diablo so much, and like Nox wasn't out, but she already decided she loved it because she loved Diablo, so she went as Nox for Halloween, like the character Nox from Nox.
Wow.
And then Nox came out and she hated it, and she was like upset that she got as Nox.
She burned all those pictures. Oh my God, I can't believe.
Slapped it pretty hard. Anyway,
so here's the way I always look at it. To me, and this is me personally, right? A huge element of that grind, right, is because you know exactly what to expect. I feel like I'm grinding once my sense of exploration is gone.
Okay.
So think about kind of the classic MMORPG structure, right? All the way back to the EverQuest
like you're looking
structure.
for a rat, you need to go kill some rats.
Well, it's even to the point where, let's say you're level...
I played EverQuest. I killed a lot of rats.
You kill a lot of rats.
You played EverQuest?
Yeah, I got to level 14. My enchanter. Anyway,
but you're like a level 24 warrior, right? And you're like, oh man, I want to go to the next area. I'm kind of done with all my quests, but the next area is too hard. I feel like I got to be level 25 or 26 maybe to adventure on. So you're like, okay, well, I'm out of quests. I'm kind of out of directed content. Okay, I'm going to go to the tree in the corner of the forest where I know these spiders are, because that's my best risk-to-reward ratio. I'm going to kill those things over and over and over and over and over again, right? And I know exactly where they are. I know exactly what they're going to drop, within their table. I know exactly what the challenge is. And so you lose that, and this is for me, I lose that sense of exploration.
It's a chore.
And you're like, oh, I just got to do the same thing over and over and over. What I liked about Diablo, what I like about Hellgate is that because it's randomly generated, I don't know exactly what I'm going to find. Right, I might go, oh, I'm in this city set. I have a good idea of what may be here, but I don't know exactly much there. There could be a named champion that's in there that I haven't seen before. There could be a passageway to an additional area, like a elite sewers or whatever. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, even if I felt I had to repeat a difficulty area, right? Because I tried to go to the next zone,
right.
It was too hard. So I don't, and I think it's that. It's that constant. It's a couple things. Part of it is that constant exploration feeling, right? Another is, and it's kind of the hallmark. There's just tons of stuff, man. There's just always stuff happening.
So how, like in Hellgate, how are you going to get the best stuff if you, 1, kill bosses, 2, find like a kind of a named, maybe not a boss, but a named enemy that appears like at a certain point in the game, or will there be random spawns if you just keep farming the same area, like once every 200 times you kill this one monster, like a rare enemy might spawn? How does it work?
Yeah.
All of the above.
Nice.
All of the above.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically really what you're doing, and this is kind of part of it, right? I mean, people did, like bail runs or whatever, right, in Diablo 2, because when you killed the named guy, it increased your chances for rare drops.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the guarantee that was the guy who was going to drop the best thing. You can walk outside of town, and the first guy you kill drops a legendary, and you're like, oh, crap, right? It's all you're doing is trying to skew the odds stronger. It's like the reason when you wear like gear that gives you plus magic find. Right, because you're trying to up your odds of a magic item dropping, so the chance that you're getting a really good one, is going to be slightly increased, and I mean that's really part of it. It's really almost kind of the slot machine mentality. You just want as many pulls as possible, and if you can try to play the slot machines closer to the front door, they're the ones that pay out a little better. because people walk by in the streets in Vegas, right? And you want to see the bells going off. And
which also applies at a higher level to, like, do you play the nickels, the quarters, or the dollars? Which is why you want to keep ratcheting up. That's why you want to keep moving up.
It's why we put. Diablo had the difficulty levels. We have difficulty levels in Hellgate. And so when you get to that end of that storyline, then it's like, okay, cool. I'm going to start playing Nightmare mode. And now you're finding higher level versions and better gear and different things to do. And that's the kind of thing that keeps it exciting. I mean, it's very much a loot driven system. You know, I mean,
okay. So here's the argument that I hear a lot, and AI Impaired just threw it out there as kind of like a coffee talk kind of thing. Here it is: randomized 3D environments versus playtest art is constructed 3D environments. Discuss.
Discuss.
I give your Linda Richmond like a 4.5.
Yeah, well, whatever. My Mike Myers isn't any better, but you know where he's coming from,
yeah,
right?
I know exactly where he's coming from.
So, how have you guys tackled that problem, or that issue? It's not a problem,
right? We are obviously huge fans of randomized content.
Right.
We think we get a lot more overall gameplay, replayability, mileage out of that. The challenge is always doing whatever you can so it doesn't feel like it's randomly thrown together. Right. The biggest compliment that we can get is when somebody plays a game and they say, "Wow, that didn't feel like it was random." Right. And we do that through different themes. So we'll have like when a City Streets, for example, which is like this big meta set, right? When you're out in the streets of London, we'll have different things. There's a military theme that can happen. So when the algorithm is saying like, okay, you're entering into this portion of London, it's going to be city meta set. Now what I'm going to do, and it goes to the randomization. It's like, oh, okay, well, it's going to be boulevards, right? Which is kind of a subset. Okay, and we're going to do a military theme to it. So now we're placing in to the different, the way we always talk about is like Lego blocks that kind of are pieces that can be used to make up the randomized area. If it's in that military theme, we have like destroyed tanks, artillery, barbed wire areas, big concrete walls that are used for quarantines. So there's all these set pieces, like little props
wouldn't be there in other
that
versions.
aren't in there if we've got in the one that's like devastated boulevards, like all these different ideas, and those have this is a little boiled down example, but if you have a chunk of street that can be part of that theme, right, that military theme. We have one of our artists, all he does is he'll find 2 or 3 spots on that piece where something could be. And he'll say, oh, it could on this one, you could either lay the street down just blank like it is. But if it's a military theme, when it lays that piece of street down, there's a chance that it's going to have this overturned tank in this one position that I've artistically placed so it looks good. Or it's going to have this barricade over here, or it might have this Jeep that's up against the wall. And so he's laid out that piece as if you're doing an artistic layout. And then all of those different layouts and if they can be next to each other, how many there are in a level, all of that goes into the shockingly complex randomization algorithms. So what you end up getting, the goal is that it's a layout that's randomized but has elements in it that have been artistically placed and then don't make it feel like it's just a mishmash.
Haphazardly thrown together.
Yeah.
I have a really basic question because I haven't been keeping up with this title. So what do you get for the MMO? If you buy the game, you don't have to buy the MMO pricing, but if you do subscribe, what do you get?
Yeah, I mean, it was, and it's the kind of thing where we wanted to try to meet the hopefully the demands of both sides, right? And I always start this by talking about that because people have always brought it up, and to me, and I'll just say it's bizarrely controversial topic. Right?
Well, no one's ever really done this before.
And that's exactly what it is. I think
it's not bizarre when you're going to people's wallet. I mean, that right there.
No, that's true. But you don't have to go into somebody's wallet for them to play online forever.
Right, and World of Warcraft proves that a lot of people are willing to go into their wallets.
Right, but for us, it was less like, oh yeah, we can make people pay to play our game.
They will
pay, right? That wasn't it at all. What it was is like, first and foremost, it was like, how do we give people the ability to play in a secure online environment for free and just go and do that and give them more than we were ever able to do in the Diablo days, right? So you can go on, you can join guilds, you can get new achievements, there's PvP, there's like all this stuff that's for free, out of the box, you go online, you're playing. But then what we want to do is to have a way where we could make new content, right? Continuing content for players. And if they wanted to get that, then they can subscribe to get that. And there's some stuff that they get right away that are like little perks, and those were the very early things we talked about, and I think that kind of put a weird mindset.
Exclusive items or something?
Well,
Exclusive
like more stash and, you know, more character slots, like the really easy things.
Right.
But then the more and more we develop that over time, you know, now there's different gameplay modes like Elite, which is a much harder way of playing the game, Hardcore. You can combine those modes. You can play an Elite Hardcore guy. All of those have different ways that you're noticed in the world. So if you see some guy who's like 42 and he's an Elite Hardcore, you're like, okay, that guy is a badass player.
So is it almost like the Hellgate of the Month Club, where if you pay this, like as new content becomes available, you get it. You don't have to buy expansions, like you just get it.
Right. Yeah. So it's like as your subscription, like you're getting all this additional content. Some of the stuff are things that are always there, right? Like the game modes is a great example of that. Other stuff is things that only like, you know, run for a week or 2 weeks, like themed events, right? When the game launches, there's Halloween-specific themed events that happen. We get to November 5th and we do some Guy Fawkes stuff, right? Yeah. And items that only drop and things you can make and pets you can earn and like all these different things
that's
for subscribers.
Only available to subscribers.
Right. And
So look,
but
if
then
I'm
they
a
get to
free
keep it
guy,
afterwards.
how do I go on playing as a free guy and see this dude in his incredibly cool kit that he got because he pays for the game and not feel pissed?
I don't know, man. That seems like a hard thing. It's like you're not paying for it, so
Right.
you know, and that guy paid for it, so.
But you paid for the game. I mean, I understand to some degree.
You can still
Sure.
get stuff.
Well,
right?
it's similar to
Yeah,
like,
you're getting tons of stuff, and it's not even that his stuff is better, quote unquote, right? I think
Right.
that was a big thing. People were like, oh, they're going to get all the way better gear, right? There was this hilarious Penny Arcade cartoon where they drew like, you know, guys with like with the with like the cardboard armor and like a tube sword, right? You know, I'm a free player, and but that's not what it is. It's just like all.
So you're not nerfing the free guys.
No, we don't nerf the free guys at all. And in fact, the free guys get, you know, a hell of a lot more than other people get them.
Actually, it's kind of a choice of how hardcore you're going to be. Like, you know, if you're dabbling and then you decide, well, I want to take the next step and like, you know, invest in this monthly fee.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of like if you're willing to do that, you're seeing what people can
Right.
do. And almost it's like the Radiohead album that just came out. Like, you can pay whatever you want, but if you're a super fan, you can buy the fucking $80 box set with everything.
Right.
And they're seeing, well, if that is worth it to you, then it is worth it to you.
And if you want to, you can subscribe for a little while. Like if you know that an event's coming up, or you see that people are coming out with this really cool stuff, Halloween theme or whatever, you can sign up for the subscription for a month. And if you were that specific and you wanted to unsubscribe after that month was over, you could.
Yeah, I mean, you can. I mean, the thing is, you don't get to use the subscription stuff when you're not subscribing.
So they would take back your Halloween hat.
Well, no, we don't take it back. You still have it, right? But for example, let's say somebody said,
But
okay,
you can't equip it.
I mean, yeah, basically, but here's the thing, right? The way you look at it is like, okay, I want to get this Halloween stuff, but you know, I don't see anything in November that I'm excited about. Right, but they have a big thing coming out in December, and I want to get that, but then I want to wait, you know. Or if people are like, I'm going on vacation for a couple of months, and I'm not going to have access, I really can't play.
Turn it off.
Great, you turn off your subscription, and then when you turn back on, everything's still there for you whenever you want to access.
And you guys are
stuff.
setting up a really flexible interface so people can do that easily.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
All right,
I mean,
because that's also another sticking point. I mean, I've read many a horror story about how hard it is to get in or out of a subscription for any number of different MMOs.
Right. And I mean, the thing is, I mean, and to answer the question, like people seeing stuff, and they're like, if I'm playing WoW and I see somebody who's got Burning Crusade gear, I'm not pissed if I didn't elect to buy the expansion set.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's just like,
Okay.
yeah, I didn't want to pay for that stuff. I didn't want to get a bitchin' flying mount.
So what
or
do you
that
think
cool
the mix
extra
is?
armor.
So when you guys look into your crystal ball, what do you think the mix is going to be between subscribers and non-subscribers?
I have no idea.
Oh, come on! You look.
No,
at the,
sincerely.
Really?
It's kind of it's kind of
who
unprecedented,
knows?
so who really knows?
Yeah, I mean, I hopefully, really, what we want to have happen is we just want people to go online and play and enjoy it. Right?
Okay.
And that's why there's all the cool free stuff there, right? And then some percentage of those people are going to say, you know what, I want more stuff. I want a constant flow of fun things to do. I want new areas to go and explore. I want the new, you know, hubs they're building. I want the new adventuring areas. I want to get more different high level content. You know what I mean? To play. Like some people are like, yeah, I love playing. I want to get the better gear and the better gear and the better gear, like going through the difficulty modes, but they might say, oh, well, instead of whipping through Nightmare mode again, I'm going to subscribe and I'm going to get to go to the new area and go there, and there's going to be different drops, right, that maybe aren't necessarily quote-unquote better, but they're different. They're, you know, they have a different look. They're cool. People see that, like, they're going to go, yeah, it's all about how unique my character looks, or this different experience that I'm having.
So I tried to bring this back to single player once already, and we got away from it. How dead is single player? Are we getting close to a point where single player is an afterthought?
Did you say how dead?
Yeah.
I don't think single player is dead. I mean, I think that that online has become really expected, and it's become super easy for people to get online. I mean, broadband penetration it just keeps going up.
I tell you what I like to do. I like to play by myself online.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like when you can play offline and bring all your shit online. I mean, that's...
Yeah, but then you set yourself up for, like, hacksaws.
And that's the reason we don't do it, right? Because we have no idea what you're doing on your own on your computer. So your online character
Shane's
is your
twinking
online
himself
guy.
out. He's like level 99 on day one.
I'm petting the penguin.
Yeah. He brings his penguin pet on. You're like, dude, that's not even in the game.
I'll tell you right now, I'll be your poster child for cool shit because I am going to raid the hell out of this game. When you see some guy with, like, flames on his head, that's going to be me.
But to the single player question, I mean, we don't think it's dead. We made sure that we have a really cool.
That's where you guys focused
component.
so much at your beginning. I mean, when we were talking about this game 2 years ago at your office, that was the deal. That was the main focus of the stuff we sat in your conference room and talked about.
Yeah.
So
it's always been. I mean, it's very much that spawns out of the work we did when Dave and Eric and Max created Diablo. Was the whole idea of like we want this really fun single player experience people can do, but then we want to have you can go online and do that with your buddies and have a great time. And but because we know online is so much bigger, right, that's where the online portion grew. But I don't think single player's dead. But I'm with you, Milky. I love to solo. I like to go on, but I like to be online with my friends. I can be in a guild, be part of a community,
chat with people,
trade items, look for stuff. And but I like soloing.
Yeah,
it's almost all exclusively.
Is the single player game randomly generated as well?
Yep.
Why?
Because again, when you go through it, we want people to have for a couple reasons. One, I mean, replayability. People are going to play through it and they're going to go, oh, now I want to, play it with a different character. And we don't want it to be like the only difference is the character and the skills. We want the experiences I had. Also, we've always built our games around part of your character story are those water cooler experiences you have, where there's the story components.
About emergent gameplay.
Emergent gameplay. That is so buzzworthy.
But Gar just rolled his eyes.
But really, the thing is where you have those same story nodes, right? You have that element like, oh yeah, man, I went and fought Shulgoth. That was really cool. My first big boss battle.
Are you kidding me? How many times do we talk about the Smith?
Sure.
Holy cow!
Right, like that element, right? Is that kind of touchstone that everybody has? But when you're talking about how you got there or what items you got, and you're like, oh, dude, I was going through in the sewers, and then I found this grate, and I went into it, and it was like this crazy Mario level I was running. You're like, I didn't have that happen.
There's a crazy Mario level in your game.
Yeah, kind of. There's definitely a level where you can go down and it's this big treasure room and there's just like gold there and you kind of run through it and grab the gold and open stuff and I literally was playing it and one of the guys came into my office and I was in this underground passage that had this bridge over a lake and he's like, dude, I've never seen that before. And I'm like, yeah, this is the first time I've ever run into it.
We didn't program it. The game's making its own new level.
By the way, we have a couple people working on the floor here. You might say hi to them.
What else are the kids asking about?
Oh, the kids have asked about. Well, so before I go any further about that, one of the things that's curious to me then is, Diablo was a game that did a great job of crossing over between offline and online play. Mm-hmm. But like Milky said and like you said, I also played it an awful lot soloing, but on the online servers. Mm-hmm. What's the trick to making a story-based role-playing game that works in an online space? Because there's a lot of problems there, right? Especially with storytelling elements.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've done a lot of work that people will see when they go online, right? I mean, we were all kind of talking about this right in the pre-show is that there was a lot of time we put specifically towards the online component after the game went Gold Master, right? Because you have this 3 to 4 week period from when the disc has to go off to get replicated and ships to stores and everything. But we're still working because we know people are going to become online. So there's actually a lot of things we did to bolster the story when people get online day one, pointing things better, pointing things out better, making the world feel more complete, putting gossip on NPCs, kind of like building up that flesh in that world. But it is really difficult. I mean, it's kind of the thing where, and I think we're maybe helped a little bit by the fact that we are that quote unquote that action RPG. We're kind of that RPG light, however you want to think about it. I mean, I think we've got a cool story that's in there, and I think will be a lot more apparent to people, especially when they play in the online, because we did a lot of bolstering of it. But it's tricky, right? You can't really do the thing where it's like, you are the sole heir to the throne, and you alone hold the key to the power. And you're like, yeah, me and the other 85,000 dudes that are,
I'm the chosen one.
Yeah,
I'm the
we're,
chosen
I'm
one.
the chosen one.
we're queued up for the Notorious, and I'm number 5 in line, motherfucker. You don't be getting in front of me.
Yeah, so it's you definitely have things where like what you're doing is important. You want people to feel heroic and stuff, but you kind of do have to allow for this suspension of disbelief that I mean, it's any MMO you're going through. Like you play any of them, and there's like some storyline element you're doing on a quest, and they're going like we need you to do this right away, or else the castle's gonna fall, and you're like, well, can't one of those other 42 dudes do it? Why am I the guy who's got to go? But you try to make it so the story you're going to, it's interesting, it's got some compelling points, it's whether that's something that's dramatic, whether it's funny, whatever it is. But it is really difficult when you have a lot of people sharing exactly the same story with you or going on the same quest as you. You kind of just have to buy into the fact that you're all doing it, and it's not some perfect storytelling experience, which I think actually separates us from film and books, right? There's always that whole discussion of, as games, we need to tell better stories, more rich stories, more complete stories. But in a film or a book or a play, the story is presented to you in exactly the pacing they want you to have it, with exactly the character interactions they want you to see. In a game, and it gets more and more complex. I mean, it's very different in something like BioShock than it's going to be in Hellgate London. Hellgate London, we don't know what your character's like as soon as you take a step. As soon as you take one step in the world, you could drop both your weapons. We don't know what the hell you're going to do. We have no idea.
And I think in a game like this, players don't expect the story to be overwhelming and to be like what's guiding them through the game. Like, it's the quest for stuff, and it's social, and it's all those things are more important than the story, really. So
right. And at the same time, you do want to hopefully give them stuff that they're going to like talk about, and they'll go, oh, that. But it tends to be. But think about it. You don't talk about what was your character's compelling motivation for fighting the butcher. Right, or the Smith. You're going like, dude, that fight was badass. Yeah. Oh my God, when he started breathing fire, I thought I was screwed. You're like, and I did this maneuver. And you're talking about, the excitement of that system, what was happening there, and the story's the thing that kind of like, drives you through it.
Right.
And you want to be good. You don't want to just like,
But it's almost like the setting and the characters and the items and art direction is almost more important, I think, than the story in a game like that.
So you guys have put a ton of passion into this. You finally get the demo out, and you know where I'm going.
And the crowd goes mild.
You've read. Mild might be an understatement. They've gone wild the other direction.
Okay, but this game has been a long time coming. Maybe they were poised to hate.
I don't know about poised to hate.
No,
I mean,
you know what?
The response.
I think people are just never happy because, like, I've been playing the beta a lot, and I see these people bitching like every time there's an update or something. They're like, they totally screwed with the balance, or they, now this weapon is worthless or whatever. I'm like, what the fuck are you complaining about?
Or like,
You're
hey,
in
Bill,
beta.
how do you feel having made me wait
free.
3 years for the biggest disappointment that you could have made? Or
Yep.
How do you feel having made a big lump of crap? Okay, so Bill, how do you feel having made? By the way, someone tells me to ask this question because
I thought that was your.
This is what I would go ask Bill. Hey, Bill, how does it feel to have made a big steaming pile of crap? Oh, well, I don't know. But what do you guys think about the response, and why have people, like so many people who obviously were hyped for the game, suddenly when they play the demo thought to themselves, whoa, what?
So I think there's a couple things, right? First of all, the demo really. We talked about it over the last couple of weeks. It underwhelmed. It came out and people were like going, wow, we don't necessarily know exactly what they expected, but like, it wasn't a multiplayer demo. Okay, yeah, but the game's also a single player game, right?
Right.
We didn't want to require people to have to go onto servers, right, to play multiplayer and check the game out. It's like the very super earliest part of the game. So yeah, it's really easy, right? It's designed for maybe you've never played this kind of game before. Maybe it sounds crazy, especially those hardcore gamers that, of course I'm using WASD and I'm moving the whole thing. It's like, yeah, we threw a tutorial thing in there. We made it simple, right? Now, and there was only 2 character classes. And because you're only getting to maybe level 4 or 5, the early skills you're getting aren't like, oh my God, that's the coolest freaking skill ever.
There's a lot to come.
Yeah, there's a lot to come. And I think that because it was a big download, right? Because it's graphic heavy. It's like what was like
super art resource intensive.
Right. Is that which really blows the size up on and everything. Is that people went like, hey, I downloaded for like 2 hours or whatever. I got 1.4 gigs. It's gonna be great. And they go on and they get about 45-minute demo. There's a couple character classes. So maybe they play for an hour and a half. And they're like, okay, well that just totally blew. You know, and it's like,
Well, it's almost
could
like
it have been better? Yeah, maybe we should. You know, maybe we should have done like something completely different in terms of the demo.
But it seems
But
like
it's
the
just a
expectations are out of whack. It's like this isn't just like online high level Diablo
That's like
2
being-
Diablo 2 play.
That's like being disappointed in the Call of Duty 4 beta. It's like you get to play a multiplayer game for free. You're having fun. You're out there just getting the taste of what it's going to be like, but you don't have the full single player game in there. And like, you know, what is there to complain about? It's a beta.
How about coming back with a second demo?
That might be something we do. You know, it could be somewhere we look at it and we say, okay, maybe there's a better representation that we could build demo-wise, and maybe we just assume that people know what they're doing and like
Yeah, I mean, as
offer some mid-level gameplay. But
With
it's
some
also
big
tough because
scripted
here's the difference is really hard, right? When you're looking at like a shooter, right, and somebody's like going, hey, check out the TF2 demo or whatever, they can go, cool. Here is basically every element of the game on one map. Here's all the guys you can play. Here's all the weapons. You're going like, wow, this is bitchin'. That was a fun map. And the way they limit it is it's a map. For us, when you've got a game where it's like, you're developing your character. You're looking at investing like, you know, tens to hundreds of hours. How do you actually accurately represent that in like an hour of gameplay?
You don't.
You
You
can't.
can't. Right.
So we tried to give a taste of like, here's the flavor of our world. Here's our control scheme. You know, here's the way we do stuff. Here's our skill system. You know, and get that out there. So I mean, maybe I don't really know though.
My input as a guy who's played the games a couple of times is that you would have been better off going later on in the game, because I get what you were doing with the demo, which was here's one of the guys who plays in first person and plays this sort of ranged, you know, he plays this sort of game. Here's
Right.
a guy in third person, and here's why you'd play in third person, because this is the way it plays out.
Right.
And here's what it's like at the beginning of the game. But you never get that sense like we got when you guys have done demos for us and we've come in and played those higher level characters
Right.
of, oh my God, when this dude gets all these extra stuff going on and the level gets more badass, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah, and I think
And you don't get that aha.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the challenge for that is, you know, do you do that by then going like, here's your demo. You're starting with a level 20 guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, the concern that
Then there's no context.
Well, yeah, there's no context, and like it's like when I was a huge Dark Age of Camelot player for a lot of years, right? You knew immediately when somebody had an eBayed character because you're playing with them, and they're a level 50 guy, and they have no clue as to what the hell they're doing, right?
Yeah.
That's the same kind of thing. It's like I could give my level 30 guy that I finished the game with, right? You know, internally to somebody else, and they're gonna go like, how
Yeah.
does your skills work?
That's
What am I
true.
doing?
That's
That's the
true.
challenge. That's a challenge.
Because
right?
the coolest character I played was the one who has the bracers that channel the energy.
Right, the focus items.
The focus
Yeah.
items, right? And if you were to give someone a demo with focus items, just the sheer amount of information they'd have to process to get, you know, the idea of how it worked and why they were
Right.
important, what focus items they wanted to use, and how they used them in different situations, it would be a mess.
Right, and what skills you're using, and why
Why you
those are
chose
important,
them,
the
and-
spells you
right.
took.
So it's
It's tough.
catch-22. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, and so I mean, and a lot of things, you know, I mean, you kind of have to approach it that way. You know, you try to do the best that you can to get a taste of the game out there, like in terms of the demo, but a lot of people are going to look at it and go, that's the lamest piece of crap ever. And I've had other people that have said, like, wow, I played that and it was really kind of cool. I like where you guys are coming from. So
Maybe you
it's-
should just make a trailer next time.
yeah, I think we're just going to text. We're going to put some text out. I don't even want graphics.
An
I just want-
ASCII adventure.
That's right. It's going to
That'd
be
so hot.
a little at sign walking around fighting numbers.
Hellgate : ASCII.
All right, so you guys have taken.
Shane will play it.
You guys have gone with your direction as far as fee structure, the kind of business model, and just in general, the kind of online game you want to create. What was the big influence there, and what do you think about what's going on in the rest of the space? And of course, I got to ask, when you guys now look at that little game, World of Warcraft, what comes across your minds?
Wow. I mean, you know, you're going to say it, right? I mean, World of Warcraft is a cultural phenomenon. Right?
Okay.
And I think to a degree from that standpoint, forget how much time, resources, money, whatever Blizzard can put into the product, right? All of which are considerable. World of Warcraft has risen to the level of being a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, when they've got a Toyota truck ad based in the World of Warcraft.
When the South Park episode about your game has won the Emmy,
Right.
what? How do you plan as a game developer or a publisher to compete with that? Okay, you guys, let's get together and make the next cultural phenomenon.
For the record, I don't think WoW is a very good MMO.
Oh.
Just saying, it's like my first MMO TM. That's how I feel about it. I like stuff with a little more depth and a lot less
Right.
attrition.
But the thing that worked for them is, if you're thinking about that, it is my first MMO.
Yeah.
And they've got a hell of a lot of people into the MMO space that had never played one before.
Where do you think Hellgate fits in relation to if WoW's a starting point and then there are other
Jesus
MMOs?
Christ, if WoW's the starting point, everybody's screwed, man. That's I mean, think about it. The game had an immense development cycle with hundreds of developers on it, right? And basically, and I'm not talking out of school anyway, but, we were there when it was getting worked on. I mean, that was the focus of the company, and a company that had a huge amount of hits already under its belt. So I think it's almost impossible to have any developer, seriously, almost any developer on the planet, and go like, okay, we're going to make the next WoW. Because I'll tell you right now, the sales projections were not 9 million.
Really?
When we sat down and talked about that game.
Really? Well, I would never have guessed
shockingly, right? I mean, because think about it. What was the single biggest subscription U.S.-made MMO to that point?
EverQuest.
Right. And what was their numbers?
200,000.
Yeah, like 550,000 people, right? That's when you would sit around and go like, man, is it insane for us to think we could get worldwide a million people to play it? I mean, those were the insane numbers you would talk about, right? So the fact that now they're like 9 million plus, you can't plan for that. It's impossible. So when I look at the success that that's had, part of the reason that the game was successful, and I think all the Blizzard games have been successful, is that everybody who works on them is a gamer. We made games that we wanted to play, right? And then over the life of the game, we listen to the community, right? And those are all things that we try to do at Flagship. We're all gamers. We make games that we want to play. I think the latest beta patch we put out right before the game shipped is a big deal. There's tons of stuff in there that is based purely on feedback from the community. Everything from restructure of layouts of levels to having more feedback to making the game feel a little more serious and a little less bizarre in terms of NPC speeches, in terms of balance of character classes. I mean, that's what we're making the game for. I mean, we want to make a game we want to play, but we're making it for the people that are playing it. And so I think if that's the focus, you got to stay true to that vision. Then you've got the best chance you can.
Now, you guys, once upon a time, kind of got copied a little bit in a little game called PSO. A lot of people have definitely accused PSO of taking many of its ideas from Diablo, translating to 3D.
I'd agree.
Yeah,
PSO was really like the 3D Diablo in space.
Right.
So what's the chances of Hellgate not letting that happen with someone else, but actually Hellgate going over to the console? There's many questions here from our listeners about.
I think that's an obvious question.
Yeah, I mean, and I think put into more relief in the fact that we have both Namco and EA as publishing partners, right? We have big console companies we're working with. It's obviously, I mean, I can't lie. It's something we've looked at, something we've talked about. Big caveats for us. Nothing that Flagship would be programming and creating. We're PC guys, right? Something that if we did, we'd want to be involved in, right? I think another huge thing is we'd want it to be a fun game on the console, right? Which is why personally I would want to work with a good console team who makes console games and could take our portions of our gameplay mechanics, not just going like, oh, here's the look, we ported it to console. It's like, here's the console version of this game. Even if they went and said, you know what, this game mechanic does not work on the console, we need to replace that.
So you think Control if it rethought?
Have you seen something like that work before? Because I know it's tough to ask about what developer you would want to do it, because that puts you in an awkward situation.
Think back to Diablo on PS1.
Yeah, well, see, that was, not so much. But I mean, think about like the Baldur's Gate stuff on the console.
Okay.
Like Icewind Dale and stuff. Like think about like when they made that jump, the D&D stuff on the console, right? Which or I mean, if you want to talk about how the gameplay mechanic can work, look at the X-Men games.
Yeah.
Right? That is
Those
that
are cool.
Diablo-esque style
those.
action RPG type thing, but works really, really well on the console. Right? I think that you can take different mechanics to make it work. I mean, I look at what we've got, third person, first person. You can look at the way control schemes work for stuff like like Halo 3, right? Or TF2, or any of the shooters. They're first-person games are now very accessible on the console.
You mentioned Fallout 3. It's one where it appeals to people who play Halo, but it also appeals to people who want to do turn-based combat.
Right, exactly. So I think that personally, I would want to work with dedicated, passionate console developers, right? Just like we are on the PC, and then say, how do we reimagine this game, the world, whatever it is, so it makes an awesome console game? And I'd love to see it happen. I think that we could do something that would be really cool on the consoles.
Like, fuck console gamers for a second. I want to ask some purely selfish questions. Like, you know how in Diablo 2, one of the things that broke my heart is like remember I told you before we started recording that I played Diablo 2 for so long, for years, and I had so much invested in my character. But then when they had that thing where you have to log on once every 3 months. But sometimes I got wrapped up in some other games, PSO being one of them, FF11 then being the next big time sink. And then I remember going back to Diablo 2, I logged on and my characters had literally expired like 2 days earlier. And I was, I can't even begin to tell you how maxed out they were. Is there going to be, if I don't pick up my Hellgate character for a couple months, are they going to disappear?
We haven't we've taught that was like, for us, that was like burning in your character, right? That was a term we always used for Diablo. You'd like play for X amount of time, it's for the name to stick and all that. But it's kind of works. I don't think that applies as much anymore, right? I mean, that was definitely kind of I think a representation of the era, the time that we were doing that. Because
you see, James, EA has terabytes of storage, and it's really no problem.
But but see, that's the thing, and but you know what's funny, Garnet, is that's a kind of a misconception. EA doesn't handle that stuff for us.
You do.
That's all.
Yeah, we do all that, right?
So it's
props for that.
It's our terabyte.
It's just data.
But that's the thing is, and think about it now, memory is so much cheaper. Storage, I mean, trust me, it's not like we don't pour a hell of a lot of money.
But you're not hosted at 365 main, are you?
Why would you say that?
That's where OneUp is hosted.
But no, here's the thing, right? Is that we know we're better at compressing data. We're better at storing it, right? And also we know that people live online much more now than they did 7 years ago when we were doing the Diablo 2 stuff, right? So, I don't want to have a thing where it's like, oh yeah, if you haven't played in 2 months, well, we're going to nuke your guy. Hey, you played, you stopped playing, you come back in 6 months.
Yeah.
We'll figure out how to have your guy there.
That's what they do in WoW. Like, your guy is still there even if you're inactive for X amount of time. They do it in FF11. Guild Wars is your forever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you have to, depending on how complex data structures are and how big how much that hits the database stuff, you can put reasonable amounts of time. I mean, there's some amount of time no one's going to complain about, right? It's like I haven't played my City of Heroes characters in probably a year, and then they made this announcement. They're going like, we're going to be releasing names of characters that haven't been active in the last 3 months.
You're like, the hell you say?
Yeah, and I was like, what? Maybe I better pay my $14.95 and get on and save my name. So I had some cool ass names. It was that kind of thing, but they'd kept it there for a year, and they just finally, for them, it wasn't a storage issue, it was a namespace issue.
Oh, really?
Right? They wanted, they go, wow, there's a lot of really cool names that no one can use because they're on inactive characters.
Because Andrew nailed down Sephiroth early on in the cycle.
Right. That's right. He had Milky Milkman.
Yeah, what's up with that, man? Why are you jacking my name?
The Milkman.
Yeah,
that's a good hero name.
All right, let's bring this back home on a good end question here, which is you've now done maybe even 3 generations of role-playing games. What's the next evolution as you guys are starting to think about maybe other projects or how to evolve Hellgate, whichever one it might be? Maybe you can give a little insight on that. What's going to be the next thing? I mean, a couple people asked this question, like what Soul Reaver 17 said is, what's going to happen to reinvent the wheel and give us all a truly enjoyable experience that presents something new, but it's still tastefully done?
Well, it's really funny because I was hanging out with Soul Reaver 16 a couple nights ago, and no, but
that's his sister, by the way. So be very careful.
I know. Which I said when you're Soul Reaver 18, call me back. But it's kind of interesting. I mean, with Hellgate, it was wanting to create this experience that would be familiar yet new at the same time.
Right.
We definitely have. We're doing that in a very different way with Mythos, right? Where Mythos is, straight up, yeah, man, this is like hardcore third-person perspective, mouse point and click, rooted in the Diablo mechanic thing, but with a very different, approach on how to do that.
We're in the dark.
The lights just went out. So
can you hear the darkness?
But the idea, I think, moving forward obviously we are extremely dedicated to maintaining and growing Hellgate. And a lot of that is trying to find new things to do within that structure.
And I always thought that the name of the game, Hellgate: London, seems to open the door for Hellgate: some other city in the future.
Yeah, certainly.
Hellgate Prague.
Istanbul.
Hellgate Pacoima. Somewhere truly frightening, right?
Hellgate Hoboken.
And that is something. I mean, we did the Hellgate London for a couple of reasons. One, we wanted the city to be an important part of what we were doing, right? The landmark locations, just the feel of the city, the look of it, the history of it. But also, it's the story of what's happening in this part of the world during this kind of cataclysmic event. And I would love to be able to explore Hellgate wherever. Right. What's happening in other parts of the world? What does their culture see demons as? What are their heroic archetypes? What's their view on magic and mysticism and, good and evil and those types of things? And so hopefully that's something we can do. I mean, I would love to do that. And I think that's something we can, that can tie into the product or be their own products. And I think that we always have, a lot of ideas that get kicked around. And one of the things that I think Mythos showed us is that we can have the ability to kind of have a separate small team that can take an idea and run with it, right? So Flagship Seattle, the guys up there, we have about 11 guys up there now that they're cranking on Mythos, man, every day, and that's what they're doing. And it's, wholly separated in many, many ways from what we do on Hellgate. And, like they're making content. They don't talk with us about, it's not like there's a very intimate bond of what we're doing in San Francisco, right, on all the Hellgate stuff and everything. The Seattle guys, they're running, Travis is running the show up there. And Max down here in SF is the exec producer, and we know what's going on, and we talk to them about strategy and planning, but, they are running with the ball. And that may be the kind of thing where if somebody comes up with a great idea, we can go, cool, let's spawn off another little group, another seed group, and, go make that idea. And I'd love to be able to do that, to try to keep that small indie feeling on other little teams within the company as it gets slowly larger.
So the evolution here, then, what you're talking about is smaller groups, more creative work, more quickly gotten out to the play base.
Yeah, and to me, that's the compelling part about continuing content. When we talk about stuff, we go, okay, we're going to do all this cool stuff for Hellgate, and it's a 3-month window.
So maybe that's the evolution.
Yeah.
The evolution is not having me wait 7 years for a new goddamn game from these guys. Because Dave,
sure.
Dave Brevik is one of the coolest guys you will ever meet.
Yeah.
The guy has creativity coming out his hair. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. He's got all these ideas, but unfortunately, it takes forever to get the next set of quests from him.
Garnett's very impatient because he's nearing death.
Yeah.
So,
I'm 40 now, dude. I got one more year and it's done.
Let's talk about
my crystal in my palm is already gone. It's
that.
off. It's carousel.
But it's true, and I think that's something that's exciting for all of us because we were talking about it's like, man, it's been like 7 years since some of us have shipped a game.
That's got to be playing into why you don't want to come out of crunch mode yet.
Yeah, a little bit.
I was shocked. I was shocked when you sat there an hour ago, or an hour and a half ago now, and told me you're not coming out of crunch mode. You're already working on new content.
Yeah, working on brand new content that's going to be coming out for continuing stuff for December.
You're in love with the act of development.
I was at work until 5 this morning working on stuff with the Koreans. For the Korean release of the game. I got 4 hours of sleep. I'm doing it, and when we're done here, I'm going back to the office. I like the fact that I can work on something now, and I know I'm going to see it in a month.
Wow.
That's kind of exciting. Now, granted, maybe we're all a little naive because we haven't gone through the brutal treadmill that is continuing content because we know it is, and we're trying to figure out ways to make it where people don't get stuck on just having monthly deadlines.
Right.
But it is kind of exciting to know that I'm going to work on something now, and people are going to be playing it in a month or 2 months or 3 months.
Let me ask you something. Like when you're talking about maybe you can splinter off a C group who works on something or other. Do you think that there is ever a chance of a game like Diablo 2 in that Diablo 2 kind of format? I know Garnett's a big fan of Titan Quest and stuff like that, but do you think that that kind of game can survive today? Like I've always wanted a high res Diablo 2, which obviously never came, but do you think everything's got to be 3D going forward?
Didn't we do 800 by 600?
Yeah, but that.
Wow, please don't really go there. Come on. Come on. You booted that thing up in the last week, haven't you?
No, actually I haven't. Though it's
last month?
No, I haven't played D2 probably for about 6 months.
Okay.
But I do fire it up every now and then, which is actually pretty, I think, is a good testament to the game. There's still tons of people.
But what about what Milky's asking?
Right, but what Milky's asking, right? So the thing is that I mean, for us, Mythos is a little bit like that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it really is. It's and I think that game, but we're approaching it from the business model aspect completely differently. The idea with that game is free to download, free to play, right? And we've talked about this before. We're gonna do like item sales. Right, and that's how we would support it. Right, it's a huge model in Asia right now. You see it in games like Puzzle Pirates,
Maple Story,
right?
Shane's favorite.
Yeah, it's becoming more recognized here.
Shane's nodding his head.
It's coming to DS.
Yeah, and
I like that because you get to buy what you want, and if you don't like the game to begin with, you never have to load it up again.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was kind of the way we looked at it and said, wow, Mythos is really fun. It's become its own thing. This is so cool. What can we do to keep doing this? And it was like, well, awesome. Let's get a nice big fat core of the gameplay there, right? And then we came up with some good systems, and we're working on a lot of stuff right now that's going to be that item sale stuff. That and if people like that, that's cool. If they don't, they can just play a ton.
Now, in a game like that, what distinguishes somebody who's just really a great player versus somebody who had the biggest wallet?
It's interesting. In a game like that, in the item sales-based games, there's a real, use one of my most hated words of all, there's a real synergy between the two, between people who just play a ton and people who have big wallets. Because when you have those items that have a actual real-world monetary component, it's always a mix of in-game money and then real-world money, right? So it'll cost you like 5 gold and 3 Zinni or whatever, to use one of my favorite fake money names of all time, right? And gold is what drops in the game, and Zinni is what you get when you spend real money.
Yeah.
And so people that make a lot of gold, they play the game, they get gold. Then they go on within the game, they go on the market and they go, hey, I'm selling 1,000 gold for 50 Zinni, right? And Zinni cost 10 for $1 or something. And when you go to buy an item, it's like, oh, it's really cool. I want to get that bitchin' hat. Right, you were talking about earlier, right? What it is, it's like, oh, that hat costs 500 gold and 5 Zinni. So people, if they have money, can trade money for time, and people who just have time trade time for money. And and so there's always we never want it to be where the only people that get cool stuff are the people with cash. You want it so people, if they want to play for free and play, there's that back and forth between the two groups.
Looking forward to seeing that one.
All right. I got to cut it off here. Do you got anything else you want to get in there? Because
no, that's it.
We're going to get to some news in just a minute. We're going to duck out here for just a second. I know I need a quick break. Anybody else probably need a quick break. So don't go anywhere. Stick around. We'll be right back with some news. Thanks, Bill.
Sierra Entertainment presents Time Shift, an intense action-packed first-person shooter for the Xbox 360, PC, and PS3. Armed with the experimental beta suit, you alone are able to slow, stop, and reverse the flow of time. Lead the uprising to victory by mastering time to become the ultimate weapon. Time Shift will be available October 30th on the Xbox 360 and PC. Visit www.timeshiftgame.com for more details.
All right, we're back. And before we get to the news, Milky and I were chatting in the break for a second, and we thought of something which was, well, Milk, I'll let you kind of lay it out there. It's about character and feel.
Yeah, all right. So, like, one of the problems with, like, most of the Diablo clones, right, whether or not they're on console or PC, is that the armor, for example, like all the drops, the loot, right? Some games, like the Baldur's Gate console games, they dropped so much stuff, but almost nothing was worth equipping. And, like, I'm wondering if Hellgate is going to have that same kind of replayability and, like, addictiveness that, say, Diablo 2 had, where I kept on doing Baal runs or Diablo runs or whatever, or Mephisto runs, because anytime I saw an item drop that had like a green thing, like I knew that it was either going to look cool or the stats were just going to be super good. What is it? It's got to be hard, especially now, because in Diablo, I imagine it must have been a lot easier to create stuff like that because all you have to do is create like sprite-based icons to, you can make hundreds of those or whatever. But with Hellgate, you've got to create these elaborate 3D models, which obviously must take a lot more time. Like what's the ratio? What's it going to be like? Is it going to be similar to how things dropped in Diablo?
Yeah, it's much more that way. Though actually, we have a lot more levels of rarity, right? And that's to me where it comes into play, right? Items drop, and they're those white items. You're like, normal item. But then it's like, oh, the green one drops. Oh, the yellow one drops. The orange, the purple. Or, we have a lot more layers of rarity involved, which is where people start getting excited. We were able to do some things actually a little easier if we're doing things that involve texture changes or palette shifts, right? We're not changing the core model that's built around, which is where the math that time goes on. All things like different particle effects that are associated with it.
Or colors.
And especially when you get to things like armor, right? One of the big things that we wanted to do with Hellgate was to allow people to have that, on top of all the randomization, customizability. And so we have these ideas of color sets. Right, so when a piece of armor drops, it has a color set or a color theme associated with it. And when the early items drop, they're kind of normal. It's like one or two. Like it'll be like it's a blue and gold armor, right? And there's kind of like 2 layers. You could actually have up to, I think it's like 5 layers of depth with that include glows and highlights and shadows and different things. When you get to like the higher end armor, you get a piece of armor where it's like, it's black with a red glow and like dark purple undertones and then and those gold highlights and stuff. And what you do is when that armor drops, you right-click on it, radial menu comes up, and it has a little eyedropper. You select that, and it applies that color across all your armor. So your guy looks like totally, even though you may be wearing disparate pieces from different types of sets and everything, it has that I'm a complete set character look. And I think that's people will go for things. I mean, we've seen a ridiculous response in terms of what people want, just in terms of we have these things, die kits, which all they are there's a little spot for them in your inventory. You equip this die kit there, you right-click on it, and it just puts that color theme on your character. And people love that. They're like, oh, cool, I got this rare die kit color. Oh, that's awesome. When people were doing pre-orders for the game, the first thing they said is like, okay, you guys you're working with 4 different retailers, and each of them get a different die kit color. Post the die kit colors online so I can choose where I pre-order the game from based on what color I want to look like.
That's cool.
Which, and so we were like, okay, here's what the hunters look like in the lava die kit or the biohazard die kit color. And that would affect people's choices on where they went and got the game. So having those elements for people, is really big. And having items, and it's really difficult. Like, how do you escalate items so the higher level they get, there's new cool stuff, and there's new things they do, and different elements they tap into, and they look different and everything. And it's actually, we have a lot more control over that now than we did in the Diablo days. Because like you said, with Diablo, they were just little sprites. Didn't actually look like the weapon looked in the game half the time.
So the upshot of this is, if you're worried or concerned and talking about how much the character of the personal character of a 2D game and that sort of appealing art style came across, not translating it to 3D, you're saying just the opposite?
The opposite.
You have more.
Way more. In fact, the biggest thing to me is when you mod your weapon. So you have a weapon that has mod slots and you're putting on relics or batteries and ammo. It all shows up on your weapon.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, damn, my gun looks fucking bad now. You're like, yeah.
I just want to make sure that
I'm a bad man.
I just want to make sure that my guy that I've put all this time to, like, as I'm nearing like whatever qualifies as end game in Hellgate, that it reflects it. That so like when somebody new starts playing like 3 months after the game comes out, he sees me walking around, he's like, oh shit, I want to be that guy, right?
And because that is the goal. Yeah, when somebody sees you, I mean, and this is beyond that free subscription. Like, when somebody sees a high level character, right, we want them to go, damn, I want to be that guy. Yeah. Because when you're a high-level character, that's what you want people to think. You want to walk through town and people go like, that's right, check out my bad armor. I will make choices in the game where I wear armor that is not as good because it looks cooler.
Yeah. See, that's one of the things I can't stand about WoW. I know that they've made some advancements and made some changes, but I remember like in the first year or so, I saw like a totally level-capped character, and I was like, what kind of class is he? And I had to check him because he was wearing moose antlers, and I was like, and some really dumb looking shoulder pads. And I was like, I am not playing X amount of hours to get to this level to get some fucking bullwinkle.
I think
moose
that has
antlers.
more to do with the art direction of World of Warcraft.
Totally does. But
which is kind of Saturday morning cartoon.
Well, the irony of that whole World of Warcraft thing was, for a while there, despite all of the different stuff you could equip in the intermediate levels, there were definite accepted this is the ultimate build for this character. You need to have these shoulders, this armor, this helm, and so everybody got homogenized after you played through all this great, leveling experience where you weren't.
And what I hated about it was like what you'd see in the item that you picked up, like a rare item that dropped on the ground and you got it. It looks so cool in the icon there, but when you put it on your actual character, it's another green smudge. I'm like, you know what? Fuck this game.
Well, the thing too is, and you brought it up perfectly, Garnet, is that the idea is that there gets to be like, I am playing this style of warrior. I want to focus on PvP. There is an epic set that I should get to be my maximum build effectiveness, which means everybody else who does that looks exactly the same as me.
And it even got to the point where if you went to party with someone and you weren't wearing the right stuff, they wouldn't even. They'd look at you and go, "Oh, you're an idiot. Why are you not?" Whatever.
But with Hellgate, we want to have it be as like. Literally, we've figured out somewhere between level about 10 and 13, somewhere in there, it starts to get astronomically difficult for two guys to look exactly the same.
Awesome.
Based on gear, based on color choices, based on different armors that drop and everything. I mean, my Guardian, I play, people look at me like, you're kind of wearing like some more blade mastery kind of thing, but your helmet's really more the overall thing. I'm like, yeah, but the stats really work. And then like, but that color theme is awesome. It's like, I don't look anything like.
Yeah, come on, you've got some Bill Roper
guy.
Only shit, right?
Well, yeah, of course.
Of course. Yeah. Come on, we know how that works.
So there is no like one size, like one optimal build kind of for each job class.
It's your optimal build.
You can accessorize yourself however you choose.
Because like that's one good thing that was good about Diablo. At once you started getting towards the really high levels, that you were pretty much really powerful one way or another. You usually specialize in one type of, whether it's ice, fire, whatever, bows, javelins, but you could get through the game, wearing all kinds of really crazy different stuff.
Well, and that's because, and that's where the randomization comes into play, right? It's like, it's not like, only this type of armor gives you bonuses for fire, right? Any piece of armor could give you a bonus for fire. So even though you and I might both be playing an evoker that's very fire heavy, with even, let's say, the same exact skill point setup, right? You could look totally different than me because of what you found, what you decided to mod, what you decided to augment, what you raised up in level with the nano forge, like all this stuff, and you could have this totally cool, different, unique look than I do, even though we'd both be equally as effective playing.
I have to apologize to Luke because I forgot one other question we should ask him.
Luke?
Yeah, Luke. I have to apologize to Luke. I mean, I totally forgot. We have a great developer, and I forgot to ask him a game.
Okay.
Bill, your game's really awesome. How awesome is your game?
I think Bill's already explained how awesome his game is. And why do you always bring up Luke every single episode? I'm just saying you do.
Actually, I haven't. I have the last two times. I have the last two times just for the hell of it.
Well, so here's the thing.
A little crazy.
That was a funny thing.
A little awkward.
We have thought about that, and this is one area that I'm gonna.
You have an answer for this question?
I'm going to open.
How awesome your game is.
I'm going to open the kimono a little bit here, right? One of the things when we signed up with EA in the Partners Program is they said we had to have a meta awesome of 82 or higher.
Actually, I'm curious, but what's the Razor's X of Hellgate London?
The Razor's
Yeah, the Razor's X.
Oh, man.
Do you know it? Do you have a Razor's X? You probably should.
We probably should.
Yeah.
I think we're going to. We're going to go. Actually, I think maybe I'm going to go back to the office and design a Razor X item, and then that will be the Razor's X.
That'd be very funny and meta. Yeah.
Well, if you do, you probably make lots of money, and if you make lots of money, you'll wind up like Nintendo and Microsoft from at least from their quarterly reports. Big surprise, Nintendo is raking in lots of money.
As they always do.
Doesn't surprise anybody. They now have a operating profit of 420 billion yen, which is about $3.7 billion.
Hundreds of thousands of untapped soccer moms.
Hundreds of thousands. Actually, so what's interesting about this, because just raw numbers are not so interesting. What is interesting is that a ton, and we said unsurprisingly, Mark Whitting, who wrote the story, said unsurprisingly, I still think it's interesting, something around the world of 78% of their sales are coming strictly from domestic Japan sales. So we, and DS, still super strong at home, but don't be completely deceived because they're not winning the rest of the world war, at least according to the figures, right?
In terms of what?
In terms of 78% of that big sales number coming out of Japan.
Well, but they own Japan.
They own Japan, right. No, I'm not debating that. No, they absolutely
a big part of that is the fact that my Xbox is a non-issue there.
Right, and Microsoft is making money in the rest of the world. As a matter of fact, their quarterly report just came out, and they have 27% revenue growth.
Well, Halo 3.
Only 5 days worth of Halo 3 in that announcement.
Well, but
isn't it the largest opening thing ever on
Right.
the planet?
Right.
Bigger than the Grand
But
Canyon?
brace yourself, because Shane's about to discount everything that
Well,
Halo and the 360 has ever
Halo
done.
3 is a huge success. But when you look at these quarterly earnings reports, do remember that big write-off was the write-off before this quarter.
Okay.
Other surprising stuff.
Why does that matter?
Well, because if it was in this quarter, then that wouldn't be
Look,
the same.
I will give you that they are capturing the launch of one of the biggest entertainment titles ever.
But I think
they only get 5 days worth of sales. This is not like if they had an entire month worth of Halo sales, it would be even more
sold
amazing.
through to 50% of the installed user base in those days. However, what's also interesting about
Here's the caveat. Here's the
this is
why Halo is not
this
successful.
is not related at all.
Shane says,
Milky, what I'm going to say here is that Windows Vista, however you want to say it, actually sold better than expected. Everyone had said soft.
Well, right, of course.
Everyone said soft sales. And turns out
that
it
was
did
gaff
well.
argument number one, and number two was, and don't forget, they have Zune in that
No.
product line.
Zune has soft
Don't
sales.
forget they have Zune.
No.
Fuck yeah, they have Zune. I mean, they're selling that thing for $99, and they only paid $12 to make it.
No, Zune isn't doing well, but Windows is and Halo is, and yeah.
Look, the bottom line is they actually turned a profit in the entertainment and devices division, which is big for them because in 2006, same period, they had a loss. It's good
the
news.
second profitable quarter ever for the Xbox.
And the other one was at the launch of Halo 2.
Yes.
Good for them.
Very good for them.
They need more of them because, unfortunately, Sony not able to do the same thing with their entertainment division.
here comes the Sony apologist truck, and Shane's driving
Surprise
it.
truck.
840,
Surprise truck.
$845
I still think you should have gone with
loss.
that name. That name was awesome.
Surprise truck was pretty good, yeah. $845 million loss in quarter two.
Here.
This doubles the 43.5 billion yen loss last year due to PlayStation 3. And you're starting to get, you know what, the numbers actually, they're building a very high-tech and expensive piece of machinery. The numbers don't bother me so much. It's some of the posturing that does now. Sony Chief Financial Officer Nobuyuki Aneda said, I cannot say at this point how much the division loss will be in the full year. The fuck?
Where's the spin?
That's bad.
All right,
How much
before,
more is it going to be?
That's bad.
Before Shane even responds, I'm just going to do it, Shane. It just says some startup losses. Startup costs.
Well, you got.
I'm looking at the ceiling while saying this. Startup costs.
You got to spend money to make money, but no, it's a big loss, and it's not surprising in any way.
But
other
losses are not the problem. It gets me concerned when your CFO says very disheartening things like, you know what? Who knows how bad this loss is going to get? That's a problem. I mean, that actually is scary in terms of investment security, in terms of how that makes a developer feel, in terms of how that makes a publisher feel, who are already nervous about the situation.
Well, and what's interesting when you look at these, quarterly, yearly reports is Nintendo. They are a bona fide home run because their business is games,
Yes.
and business is great.
They are.
Microsoft and Sony are both very large, like lots of arms to those corporations. And what you're not seeing here is one of Microsoft's divisions, their website division, had like huge losses.
Yes.
And on Sony, their like camera division and their film divisions had huge like record years.
Actually,
So,
I wanted to bring that up because
so like things balance each other out. But
They do.
from our perspective in just gaming, you can look A versus B, whatever.
and in that regard,
but it's cyclical and like it is what it is.
in that regard, it is very, very good to point out the fact that Sony is making money again.
Right.
And they're doing fantastic with their Bravia line. and
Superbad was an awesome movie.
It was super bad, man.
I wasn't getting into super bad. So
No, actually, in their reports, Sony specifically said Superbad helped make them lots of money this year.
Well, that's interesting. But
Yeah.
I think the great news is that they are making money elsewhere because it enables them to do other things, which this for me really helped me understand the price drop and the 40 gig not backwards compatible model, because another quote we have from them is that with the release of the new model, we are working hard to achieve the global sales target of 11 million PS3 for the full year. So what it's telling me is that they're very worried about how much money they're losing in the gaming division. They're very worried about getting that publisher support. So they're willing to say, financially, we're not so sure about where we are, but we're going to take really aggressive steps to move hardware,
Right.
to get hardware out there so that you, Mr. Publisher, can make games and know that you're going to have a base.
You can see the other side of that when you look at from January 1st to October, the hardware that was shipped. Sony has shipped more PS3s worldwide than Microsoft has Xbox 360s, and the reason because that is last year Microsoft overshipped and flooded the market to reach their 10 million goal.
Right, as we all know, because we
As we all
all
know.
walk through Best
So
Buy. and saw
Sony's
the frickin' mountains
overshipping
of
this
them.
year?
Well, that's what people are saying. Sony's doing the same thing this year to get to their goals, and it's all kind of a game they're playing, and it's hard to even really trust any of these numbers.
I don't even know what the point is of shipping units that aren't going to get sold. You know, like it's an illusion.
Retailers are buying those units.
Well,
they are selling those units to retailers.
The difference between gamers and game analysts and just financial people who will look at the number and say, you know, if I'm a financial,
they met their expectations.
Oh, yep,
right.
We made our expectations, we made our numbers.
Even though they're collecting dust.
But they can't realize that until it's a sell through, not a sell in.
Yeah, but you know that's always been a big point of contention as far as the financial cooking of the way the numbers go in this business.
And the other thing too is how much do you think that Sony's posturing on the PS3 has hurt them with gamers? Because they've kind of really come across. I mean, to me as a gamer, is being like, you know, look, you should just buy our system because it's awesome and Blu-ray is the future. And it's like, dude, I don't have Blu-rays. I don't have any of this crap. I don't care. Don't tell me how I'm not cool if I don't have your system.
But you know, the system's only been out for a year, so I think average Joe gamer, it was out of his price range until now, and probably might still be out of his price range. So they're just kind of seeing it as something that they're not looking into yet.
See, that's what I want to know as a gamer. What was your take? And you already made it.
As a gamer, here was my order of purchasing consoles. Wii.
Do you regret it?
360. Nope, not at all.
Not at all.
I love my Wii. I love my Wii. I pet my fish. No, I play Wii Sports. I think it's totally cool. When I have friends come over,
he's an OG surgeon stroker.
I love Wii Sports.
Here's the thing too: is when I have friends come over to my house that are not gamers,
Wii Sports,
they go, "Oh, you have a Wii? I really wanted to check that out." Right? Because the control scheme.
Yeah.
Zelda was amazingly fun.
I agree.
I mean, I don't regret that at all. The Wii is the only gaming product I've ever stood in line for overnight.
Nice.
Interesting. You know what? This is something I've talked to people about before. The Wii it has absolutely achieved its target of being a barrier-free console. It's not just that women play it or elderly people play it or middle-aged people play it or kids play it. It's that you don't even think about it in those terms anymore. There is no barrier to entry on the Wii.
Mm-hmm. It's barrier-free, but it's almost game-free at this point, too.
That is unfortunately
that's
true
the downside. Is that
is the downside.
You know.
The bad news also continues for THQ, citing weaker than expected performance at retail of Stuntman Ignition and Juiced 2 Hot Import Nights.
My thing would be, what were you expecting?
Well, I don't know. My heart actually goes out for some of the developers who work on THQ projects because it sounds like things are going to get a little bit stressful working there.
The wrestling will do really well.
THQ CEO Brian Farrell said that this is not acceptable and that we've taken steps to address it. A story over in Gamasutra says that there's undetailed personnel and structural changes coming there. We know that they've pushed back Destroy All Humans, Path of the Furon, and Frontlines, Fuel of War. I think that's going to be a very stressful place to work going forward.
They need better decision makers. They need people. I don't know. I think they're making a lot of products that people just aren't really.
Yeah, maybe
stoked about.
Maybe they should cancel Stuntman 3, and that'd be the first step.
I think they have a lot higher. I think they think that Destroy All Humans sits in much higher regard than it actually does. I mean, if they're thinking that they're going to push it back and get a great boost out of it,
I don't think they have enough people with a real bead on what's happening. It's hard though, because I mean, look how long ago you guys started making Hellgate. Like, who knows how far public gaming tastes are going to change 3 years from now if that's the length of your development cycle.
THQ's bread and butter has been licenses and kids games, so I think they need to go back to that.
One of the ways you keep from losing money, of course, is avoiding piracy. Nintendo has some very good friends in Hong Kong, where on October 8th, they were able to go in with authority and seize more than 10,000 pieces of
money
contraband.
hats.
Well, this isn't new, though. Nintendo defends their intellectual property
aggressive,
unlike any other platform holder.
They are very aggressive in doing this.
I love it when they do
Mario
that shit,
will go medieval on your ass with
that
plumbing pipe. He will come in. Him and Luigi will kneecap you.
But yeah, good for them.
So they went into Supreme Factory Limited in Hong Kong, where they seized these 10,000 pieces of contraband in process. Basically, it was Wii mod chips and Nintendo DS cloning applications. And I'm definitely, as people who work on the journalistic side of this business, we are all 100% supportive of publishers defending their rights to not be pirated. The thing that always kills me is it always winds up being the consumer who's honest that gets hurt by any sort of anti-piracy techniques. I was actually reading, this is a complete aside, but I was reading a story the other day about how troublesome Vista activation has become. And it was just an anecdotal reference of some guy who has a tech blog. He was talking about how he changed a video card, and all of a sudden he had to reactivate his Vista, and it was because the cumulative number of when you have to update your Vista had changed because he had installed some drivers for a networking application earlier. I'm like, you know what? What a pain in the ass.
This relates to Nintendo how?
Because at the same time, the whole activation thing with Windows has been skirted by pirates. So the people they're trying to keep out have already skirted the whole thing, and the only people who are paying for it are the people who are trying to be honest.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens, I think, a lot of times in the game world with Star Force and stuff like that. Are you guys going to use copy protection?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Serialized numbers?
Yeah, serialized stuff. Yeah. Going on online, I mean, you have a registration code and you put that in. That's part of your thing. But it's difficult, right?
It's tough. It's really tough.
It is tough. I mean, when you're a multiplayer online only game, that's actually one of the huge benefits to talking about Asia, right, is that over there everything's digital distribution.
Yep.
The client is just on there and it's all about your account. They don't give a crap if you put the game on 8 million computers because that's not their model.
It's your account, yeah.
Right? When you have an actual physical product that is sold, and that's where it comes from, that's where all the piracy concerns come from, which is why I think that it's really important, that when we talked about, earlier in the show about going online, is single player dead, is online. That is one of the things that will help kill single player is piracy. Because I want to be online, as a developer or a publisher, I want my game online where there isn't a piracy issue. You have to have a unique key to get on. That's you.
I have to subscribe because by subscribing I get to play the game.
Or not even subscribing, just like you have to have a way that
register
a registration that shows that you actually legally have access to that.
Makes sense. Nintendo's claims that counterfeit games such as the one produced by this company cost them and their affiliate partners more than $762 million in 2006. That's the part that gets me. Like, I don't know. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I just think I don't even know how to judge.
I think piracy was a huge factor for PS1 and PS2 because just the amount of people I knew who were pirating PS1 and PS2 games was pretty astronomical.
It was kind of out of control.
Yeah.
Well, they won't have to worry about making money in the rest of this quarter because they have Super Mario Galaxy coming in, and we are
not soon enough.
I know we're anxiously awaiting it, and we're even more anxiously awaiting it now. I'm just going to give you a quick rundown. Famitsu score is in. It scored 38 out of 40. I'm almost surprised.
That's a non-issue for me.
Canceling my pre-order.
I'm surprised they didn't get 40 out of 40. Really?
Yeah, they're pretty rare with those,
So some of the great quotes that they got out of the reviewers was that it's game anyone. The big thing that came across out of this was that it seems very approachable, very balanced, and very playable, and they actually.
I really hope so.
They actually drew a reference. They drew reference to Mario 64.
Well, there's a stretch.
Unfathomable.
There's a stretch. Mario, it's like Mario.
Yeah.
November 12th.
That should be a box quote.
November 12th for America. We've been in the thick of reviews a couple of weeks, getting ready for the fall crop, and one of the ones that we had in the office apparently won't be here this fall, and that would be Army of Two.
This was a pretty surprising move because
pretty surprising. It was a stunner.
One of my roommates was reviewing this game, and I'd walk in and watch him play it.
Sam's been playing a ton, and I've played it with him in his office.
Like that weekend, I was like, I don't know about this game, and then like the next day, I hear that they're canceling it.
It's a pretty unprecedented move.
Well, a review came out in Europe. A review came out.
Well, which is really funny because it was an exclusive review for a magazine.
Yeah.
And so they had the code extremely early to review it. So here's some of the quotes that came from Alan Taskin, and he is the executive producer on the project, which was that we wanted to add extra polish to the game. And this is the one that's most interesting to me. Where we failed is in questioning whether we could really make the game better, which is in regards to whether or not they should have gone with the launch date they had or moved forward. Now, the internet is really a funny place because, of course, people pop off like they know everything and they don't know anything. We've been exposed to the game. We've sat there and looked at it. We've talked to the producers. We've had them in to show the game to us a bunch of times. The first reaction that seemed to everyone to believe was, "Oh, they're delaying the 360 version because they couldn't get the PS3 version done."
Oh no!
And it's nothing to do with that.
Nothing to do with that.
It's nothing to do with that.
It's to do with the design. Yeah.
So what do you think? You've watched it. I think there's a good chance that if they can get some of the AI issues ironed out.
It's mainly AI issues, and I really would like them to add different dialogue and more of it.
You guys have played it, right?
Yes.
And I saw it at Leipzig.
Okay.
right, and talk with the guys. Did you have an issue with the fact that it feels like, maybe I'm wrong because I haven't played a lot of it in depth, it feels like if you are not playing with somebody else, it's unplayable.
It's broken.
That's kind of the problem.
It's broken.
Yeah.
That's the
Like,
fundamental
a
problem.
game. A game built around co-op without a good AI partner.
Right. Yeah, it was really tough. Though, and the thing we're talking was like, and the other thing kind of associated is that I get Army 2 getting across what it's all about, but what do you do for a sequel? Army of 2 2? How do you have
Army of 3 with two bad AI?
We decided
Army of 2 squared.
I was talking with Paul over at Mythic, and we decided that it should be Army of 1 Friendly Fire. That would be the sequel. But I mean, I like the idea. I like the idea behind it. I really do.
Yeah, I do too.
And so if they are taking more time to go back and address those issues and fix that, I think that's a great
I commend their decision.
Yeah.
Right, and the other problem with that is that when you were playing in co-op with someone else, is it felt too forced. It felt too much like, oh, look, we set this thing up so that you and your buddy could do this thing together, right?
Yeah.
And so if they can smooth that stuff out, I think they're in a good place. The other thing that I think is very interesting coming out of this is if you follow what's been going on, and I sat in on the investors call when EA added Pandemic and BioWare to the fold. Riccatello is definitely bringing, at least from an outside perspective, a cultural change at EA.
I totally agree.
I have never seen like one person come into an organization and just so quickly cause a cultural shift and really just immediately it's like someone took a syringe and punched it into the veins of EA and just here you go.
All right.
No,
Okay.
I agree. And we did we had a chance to be a part of the big press event a couple of months ago, right down there, and look at the sports division.
Yep.
Right. I mean, I love the fact that there was this sense of humor.
Yeah, bringing Peter Moore in. I mean,
but
he
that
changed
Peter's
it
up there and he's like, "Here's my new favorite console." He's showing like the sports in the Wii. The fact that he's like, understands about. But here is a guy who is passionate about sports, just passionate about running the division. You look at Riccatello. When he came in, he very clearly stated like, "There's 3 things that we need to focus on. It was the partner program, it was acquisitions, and it was Asia." Mm-hmm. Right, and he is going full bore on that stuff. And as a gamer, right, I look at that and I'm like, wow, he is making a massive cultural shift.
I've heard around the grapevine that when he finished BioShock, which, by the way, just off the hat, that's not even an EA game. When he finished BioShock, that he sent out a note to various folks in the game development teams citing specific points in BioShock that were successful, why they were good, and how we being EA, to live up to that standard. Yeah. That's pretty fucking awesome.
Well, I'll tell you, and I can speak to this directly from being a developer who's in the partner program, right? And I've said this before. I'll freely say it. We, there was some concern, as any indie developer has. We're going to be working with EA,
right? They're like the Death Star, right? They're the Death Star.
They're going to come in. Resistance is futile. They're going to drop in 5,000 guys and tell you what to do. Their shift in over the last 2 years of what the partner program has been amazing. It's now a service organization designed to help you, the indie developer, get your game to market. They're not like, you must do this, you must do that. They're like, hey, our experience has shown this. Do you need some help with this? Like, we're here to help you. And we realize that the EAP realizes that their benefit and their success comes through your success as an indie developer.
Well, if EA is going to get that big, I hope they do become a benevolent dictatorship, because there you go. So things we have to come clean on. I was not informed enough in talking about Oblivion.
Is that a nicer way to say wrong?
Yes, I was wrong.
Okay.
Well, I didn't have all the details, and I started talking about Oblivion Shivering Isles as we were corrected by the Bethesda community manager, who came both on 1UP and GAF and made the corrections there. So let's just wrap this all up by saying that there will be a Shivering Isles disc-based expansion for PS3. It's only necessary if you bought the original. It's going to be $29.99. And if you haven't bought Oblivion yet, if you buy the Game of the Year edition, it'll have Knights of the Nine, and it'll have the Shivering Isles expansion all on one Blu-ray. That wraps all that up nice and neat. There you go, if you want to play Oblivion. Spore. Remember Spore?
Game of the Years, many years running.
Yes. So apparently, we're actually getting into the home stretch. In a radio interview with BBC Radio 5, Mr. Wright, Will Wright, of course, said, "We have a fully playable version at this point. We're in final testing, and they're about 6 months out."
Nice.
Holy cow.
BBC Radio 5 with Will Wright.
Bill, are you excited about this? I mean, what do you think?
With Spore?
Is Spore going to help re-energize PC, or is PC still out there on its own limb and needs to be absorbed in the console?
First of all, I don't think PC's on a limb that needs to be absorbed in the console. But, you're talking to a PC dev house, right?
Well,
I mean, we chose it for very specific reasons. We love deving for PC. And I don't think if you talk, I mean, we could delve into
that's a whole can of worms.
That's a whole can of worms. How NPD has not correctly reported PC profitability. The fact that they only recently they started even delving into looking at subscriptions and how that impacts games. The fact that actually in the real-time strategy genres and the role-playing genres, sales are up on the PC, right? And when they look at sales trends are down overall, it's because they're going like, things like adventure games have died off, and genres that died off, but the areas that are healthy are healthier now than ever. I think that Spore is going to be interesting, and I'm not trying to say that in a weird way. It is a game that, as a game developer, I look at it and I go, "Oh man, that is just the coolest idea ever."
But do you think it's kind of a hard sell?
But
is
it right? But is it going to reach out to the masses? Exactly.
I think with the graphics, they really try to appeal to like the Sims demographic, i.e., children and women. And for me, when I see Spore's graphics, I'm kind of turned off. Me personally, I'm surprised that's how it looks. I'm surprised.
I just think the average person is not who doesn't follow stuff like Spore is going to walk into wherever, if they're in Walmart, for example, and they see it and show them be like, Spore, what's that? They're going to think fungus mold, and they're going to walk away.
If it is as brilliant as it probably is, knowing Will Wright and how incredibly huge the game is, but like when I first look at it, you could tell me that's like Rare's new like goofy, fun, googly-eyed monstrosity game, and I'd believe you because the character designs are so goofy and weird.
Maybe they'll
they'll
take on this whole new Second Life in the community kind of thing, like where people will be like, one mom will say like, "Oh my God, I played this game called Spore. My son brought it home." And
it could be the next Sims. It has all the potential, but I think for me as a hardcore gamer, when I see the graphics, I'm turned off.
Well, you know what's interesting, because I had to pull the story back up where I'd already tossed it, because the rest of Will's quote was that he went on to say that we've done a lot of testing to make sure that the game is accessible by a wide group of people. I want the people who have played The Sims to be able to play Spore. I don't want it to be something that just hardcore gamers play.
I think right. I think
so you're right.
It was a decision, and like when I see that, I'm always like, maybe my sister would like this more than me.
And you look at the composite of the teams that Will builds, right? And he specifically puts teams together and gets developers that are going to reach out to the non-core gaming audience. I mean, think about how long and hard he had to pitch this wacky Sims idea. People were like, whatever, Will. Okay, I'm never going to bet against Will. Will is brilliant. He's a fantastic game designer.
Yeah, when you actually meet him and speak to him, he's so much smarter than you. Like like instantly, I'm like, you are a genius.
Like, yes, you actually are a rocket scientist.
Yeah, he's fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Now I know he has some ideas to do some more casual stuff, but one guy who has definitely been at the hardcore end of the spectrum is Chris Taylor. And in a recent interview with the site Pro G, he talked about the fact that they're considering or actually already dealing with bringing Supreme Commander over to consoles, and specifically to the Xbox 360. He says that as far as the control issue, which is always the biggest issue on trying to make a console port of a strategy game, I use the football analogy. The first RTS game was the kick, and then we had to take the ball a few more yards down the field every iteration. We're getting closer and closer to the touchdown. We may be a few more iterations of the UI and interface before we get there. Maybe. StarCraft 64 was the kick, maybe?
Maybe. It was maybe an onside kick. It was a pooch kick.
That went out of bounds.
But it's really interesting. There was a lot of things we learned from StarCraft 64 that went into Warcraft 3.
Really?
Control schemes, the fact that not having to micromanage necessarily all this stuff. If you look at StarCraft 64, there's actually a couple of really good things that came out of that. Automation of your worker units.
Okay.
The way that you were able to select, like group select, like give me all of this type of unit, give me all that type of unit. I'm not defending how good the game was because it was pretty friggin' unplayable.
StarCraft 64 is like a weird thing to even consider. It's like, what? That existed?
Yeah.
Nintendo published that? What?
But it's interesting because we actually we learned a lot from that. We learned like different ways to simplify the interface on the PC. To make it better, and you can see that in War 3.
Have you looked at Supreme Commander before, though?
I've played Supreme Commanders.
Can you possibly fathom how that winds up on a console?
It's going to be tough. That's a tough row to hoe.
Maybe with the Wiimote.
It's what's interesting though. I think you laugh, but I buy into that to a degree. The Wiimote gives you a lot of finite control.
How would those graphics look on the Wii?
There's the
rub.
But so something similar to a Wiimote that is on a higher graphics system.
Well,
I think would be
I think
something that would make that would be maybe it's a unique Supreme Commander pack-in where you get the Supreme Commander controller or something. It literally is something that maybe needs to be considered.
I'm more of a fan of like them taking something like Supreme Commander, taking an element and making something that works for a console. Don't just try and shoehorn the game.
that shit.
Oh, totally agree.
Like, for example, to bring up a game from
I knew you were
your
going to go there.
past,
Thank God.
Right, like StarCraft Ghost. I thought it was a brilliant idea to take the Ghost, which was one of the most compelling units from StarCraft, and to build an entire game around that character within the very well-known StarCraft universe. I was heartbroken when that game got
The
canceled.
first time or the
Twice.
the first time or the second time?
Twice heartbroken.
I actually thought that the game looked better in the first pass.
Yeah,
than
I
the
did too.
first
I agree.
developer.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
I agree. When you
So
were
anyway.
when you did the demo at E3 where they had, we were sneaking through the warehouse levels and
dude, when
you
Bill,
were the
Bill
ghost.
brought the game by here and showed us Nova sliding down the ladder upside down and then going into sniping mode, and then they were in a Terran base with that were harvesting Zerg. It was really freaking cool.
It was
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of been put on that indefinite hold. I really hope that's something that's one of those areas where it'd be great if Blizzard worked with an outside publisher on
Flagship.
that. Well, no, God, not us. We're not console guys, but you know what I'm talking about, right? It's like because they worked with another developer,
right.
that had done some cool stuff, didn't really go the way they wanted. They tried to start a team internally, but they're obviously, always have been very PC focused, right? I mean, I agree. I love the idea, and that was always the focus. Like, how can we take the StarCraft universe and do something cool with it specific to consoles?
Right.
A completely different thing. The Supreme Commander universe is pretty cool. There's some cool mechanics there too. I love the whole concept of instantly pulling back to the world map and zoom back in. I mean, you could see doing something Supreme Commander, or maybe it's less all about how it's the RTS and it's more about individual smaller group combat stuff.
You've got some good ideas. You should be a game designer.
You should look into that role.
I'll see if I'll put some apps in. I'll see what I can find.
All right, I know some people.
Okay, I promised it at the top of the show. Now for our moment on the religious tip. The Church of England has forgiven Sony for Resistance.
Who cares?
And I know Sony is quite thrilled. I love
How
this story.
dare you have me shooting aliens in a church?
I love this story because the best part is that the BBC reports that the very Reverend Rogers Governor, Dean of Manchester Cathedral, waited until after Resistance had failed to clinch any BAFTA awards before issuing the benediction.
Wow.
Don't even talk about the BAFTA awards though. When Wii Sports wins best simulation, best strategy / simulation. I love me some Wii Sports, but that ain't no strategy
I like that
game.
tactical, they waited until the awards were over and then they didn't.
I know.
What would they have done if they did win an award?
Well, who knows? It gets better. So first, let me give you their quote, which is he said that.
Oh, can I read the quote? Let me do my British accent. With
You
the
certainly
quote.
may read the quote. Let me.
I wanted to do some dramatic reading on the show.
Do you want some light? Because
Here you
I
go.
don't have any.
There's your
light.
light.
Would be good. There's a light, and
it's in the third paragraph in the highlights.
I think so. The important lessons. That one.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think some important lessons have been learned, spoke the Reverend. So we do forgive Sony for what they have done, even though they still believe they have done nothing wrong.
So wait,
Nice.
they kind of accept
good.
the apology, but not really.
Right. Well, see, that's the brilliant part is they apologize. They're going all very Christian on them. Even though you don't feel that you've done anything wrong, we forgive you. These
Jesus forgives you, but you still sin.
He then talks about how it's important that industries like film and television that the game industry maintain the same traditions the film and television industry have maintained. Which would include having courtesy, respecting the dignity of your subject, and admitting when mistakes have been made. In so many ways, Sony have failed to live up to these standards by disrespecting people of faith and the victims of gun crimes here in Manchester.
I like how Garnett actually segues in and out of British, and then
So-
I bet
Now,
I bet Kaz Hirai is losing sleep over the
Not at all.
Church of England.
Here's the part that's so transparent. They started off by sending a letter to Sony demanding that they change the game.
And Sony was all crickets.
And then, so then after that, they requested, here's a big surprise. They requested that Sony contribute a substantial donation to the church's coffers.
Or
Crickets.
else.
Crickets.
Whoa. This is, what is this, the 12th century?
Just about.
Seriously. Thanks,
You know-
Church of England.
There's one last element to that story when I read that online this week, is they also noted that, and surprisingly, since the news broke and the game came out, we've seen a large uptick in people coming to church in Manchester.
And
right, so it's like,
and
thank you
shooting-
so much.
Shooting aliens in the church.
Shooting it, right. But I thought it was interesting that they actually have seen a benefit from it, even though I understand where they're coming from. The standpoint is like they're being very upset about gun violence, things like that. It's like, but by the way, we have seen some more people showing
Maybe
up.
there's a big sign like, as seen in Resistance Fall of Man.
Jesus.
Church as seen on TV.
Couple more quick spots. The first one is we're getting very close now to Rock Band and
Fuck yeah.
and Guitar Hero 3 hitting.
That's about
Guitar
it.
Hero 3 is going to be first. On the subject of Rock Band, one of the things that's been frustrating to me, of course, is that initially you're only going to be able to buy it in the $170 package
But
with everything.
you are saving money.
Yeah, I don't want drums and a microphone.
You
Well,
don't.
then
You
you don't
don't.
wanna
You don't have
play-
friends.
No, I don't.
Two
Are you
turntables
surprised?
and a microphone,
Yeah,
two turntables and a microphone.
All right, anyway. Next Gen Harmonix CEO Alex Rikopoulos. Did I say that right?
Rick Apocalypse, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Rick Apocalypse.
Here,
Rock Apocalypse. That shit is the new.
I mean, I give him cred for trying to spin, but he's saying that the highest priority is to make sure that as many people
Is
as
he British,
possible.
too?
Is he British?
Yes,
quasi-British.
he's actually Greek. I don't know. The highest priority is to make sure that as many people as possible can have the multi-instrument band experience this holiday. We're working diligently to get individual instruments into the channel as soon as humanly possible, and we have a huge effort in place to make sure that happens. Really? And that huge effort is not going to be able to get pieces of plastic made in China before next year sometime?
I believe that if they could, they would rather be making more money nickel and diming people for individual objects than giving them a money-saving bundle.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I think it probably is an actual production and distribution thing. There's a lot of shit coming out in November. A lot of shelf space to fight for. I don't think this is some fucking...
And that's a big ass box too.
Yeah, I don't think this is some fucking conspiracy.
I'll disagree. I will agree to disagree with you, though. I will give them one note of props, which is that the standalone software for Rock Band will be available at launch. So if you go in and buy like the bundle pack with your buddies, like one of you is going to get the guitar, one of you gets the drum, you're doing like that, you'll be able to get extra copies of the game so you can actually break it up like that. Props for that. No props, though, for this blossoming my guitar doesn't work with your game scenario that Patrick has dug into, which basically comes down to this. The Rock Band guitar isn't going to work with Guitar Hero, and the Guitar Hero guitar is not going to work with Rock Band, and that sucks. It really does suck, because I got to tell you, having played with both of them and played with the Rock Band guitar a lot lately, the Rock Band guitar looks cool, but the Guitar Hero guitar it's better. It's definitely better.
Now the question is,
Why you always
will there be
bring
a
that?
third-party peripheral company that will make a dual game guitar controller?
It's a good idea.
And the answer is probably not, because reading between the lines of the actual comments we've been able to get, the story that we're piecing together is that basically Red Octane has elected to go with a proprietary system in Guitar Hero that only their software can talk to their guitar, and so it's going to lock everybody else out.
So a third party would have to reverse engineer all this
Yeah,
shit.
they would. It's probably not going to happen, which is unfortunately. It's actually very unfortunate. And Red Octane declined to comment on the story, which I can understand why they would not want to comment. It is a mess. It is a political mess. We know that there was an ugly breakup there between Red Octane and Harmonix. Harmonix did, however, give us a statement, and their statement's pretty straight up. Harmonix develops and bases all of our games, guitars, and other peripherals on open standards established by platform manufacturers such as Microsoft and Sony. Rock Band is no exception. It supports an open controller standard. Guitar controllers are like any other standard game controller. It just sends signals back to the game depending on the buttons you push. If a third-party game controller is based on open standards, then it should work with Rock Band as well. And so they're saying that they're being straight up. They go on to say that if controllers don't work with Rock Band, the questions about those controllers should be directed to those peripheral manufacturers, which is what we tried to do. You got to be frustrated, right? Because if you're into these sort of games, you're standing there looking now this fall at a potential outlay of $270 if you're going to get Guitar Hero and Rock Band. That's going to be. I don't have it. I don't have $270 to spend on both of them.
Yeah, that gets really tough, and especially the fact that I don't know. It seems like instruments are kind of, this sounds maybe a little esoteric, but instruments are personal, right?
They are.
If I got a controller that I played on a lot and everything, and they're all the same, quote unquote, but hey, this is one, and I can't plug that into the other game that is fundamentally kind of the same thing. I got to go buy another guitar. I go to my buddy's house where I got to get a dual guitar gig bag to bring all my crap over.
It's stupid.
They should have one of those dual neck guitars.
It's stupid, and I hope it doesn't.
There you go. Now that is what you do. Is you do a double neck guitar.
That's what I'm talking
I haven't seen the interface. Does it all go into one USB hub that then gets plugged into the console?
Yes, that's the way the Rock Band works. Rock Band works like that.
Well,
except Rock Band is all wired guitars also.
Except for on PS3 where they're wireless.
Oh.
Okay. We're talking about 360. You're correct.
Yeah.
I just didn't
which
know
uses dongles and works exactly the way Guitar Hero does. But it no matter what, the gamer is the one who gets screwed out of the deal. I'm not saying that I don't understand where they're coming from as far as the feud, but it's stupid and it's petty, and the only people they're hurting, again, is the goddamn
Well, and there is a wireless Rock Band guitar for 360, but it's not the one you get in the bundle.
Right, it's not the one.
Bill, can I control Hellgate London by plugging in my USB drums to my PC?
That'd be awesome.
We will work on that. That is right near the top of the list.
DLC?
For people who are wondering and questioning why I think the guitar is better, the two quick answers are that the Rock Band, the buttons laying down in the fretboard is cool, but it's hard to tell which button you're on, especially if you go below the buttons.
You mean the solo buttons?
The solo buttons are another problem because they're very, very tightly placed together, and if you have to really practice with them to get accustomed to them, and the strum bar is really loose on it. It's kind of annoying.
Why do you hate EA so much?
I don't hate it. I'm fine with anybody. As a matter of fact, to wrap things up, and before we get out of here, something we talked about earlier has actually gone live now, and that would be the EA Game Show, which is their new hosted sports trivia game.
I find it amazing that there's live employees of EA staffing that while you play it.
Dude, it's cool. It's cool. I'm going to be playing it. If you want to go play it, have a good time.
Dude, there's a Google image search game that Bill Roper's playing.
Well, if you want to play some sports trivia, EAGameshow.com. Go there. Free to sign up. Free client to download. I think it's a pretty fun game. I thought it was really cool.
The question is, will Jim Rome have a guest appearance to come on there with no sound drops?
He should.
Dude, I don't watch any show that doesn't have explosions. Screw that.
He's going to come on and say, and here's the trivia racket. And then you're going to be... No, actually, I think it's really cool.
Holy crap! Fucking who knew it? You're a clone?
No, I'm not a Romy clone, but I've listened to Rome for a long time.
Dude,
and like I said, I'm into sports. I told you I'm a sports guy.
Clone confirmed.
He should be on the Sports Anomaly podcast.
Roper's a clone. Who knew?
Well, there you go.
You going to be in the Smack office here?
I'll be. Oh man, I would not want to compete in the Smack.
Oh, you could totally lay it
down,
dude. You could totally lay it down.
It would be pretty fun, though.
All right, so there you go, Bill. You gonna get closing shots for us? What do you think? How'd you like the big show?
I actually love it. Every time I come in here, this is like the second one I've done with you guys, and it's really fun. It makes me. It makes me want to do like a podcast every week. This is really fun.
Let me tell you, it's a whole lot of work.
It may look like all fun and games.
There's very little love for it.
It may look like all glamour and glitz, but it's a bitch.
All right, well, we definitely appreciate you listening. This is Garnet Lee for Shane Bettenhausen, James Milkey, and our esteemed Mr. Bill Roper. Thanks very much for listening. Join us on boards.oneup.com, and until next week, you know it, we're out.